click start. Alright, enough of that. Alright, enough of that. Welcome, everybody. It is I, the Nomad, bringing you news from the wilds of the internet. And here to keep a leash on me, right, is Mr. Jensen Quinn. Say hello to the folks, Jensen.
Oh, and by the way, it was him that dragged me this time.
Yeah, well, so what? I can see you there, Matt. I can see there, Oz. How's it going there, Biz Murder? I hope you're having a good day. Today, in an effort to try and keep things kind of sane, I'm going to try and keep things kind of quiet for the most part, and keep it on an even keel to prevent the rants that normally cause people's ears to bleed. Now, notice I said I'm going to try.
Bring back rants.
I didn't say I was going to be successful.
Okay, fair point.
Right. So if I fail to succeed, oh well, you've been warned. They consider this my warning. Yeah, I mean, I may fail. Right? I'm human. Contrary to what Batman thinks, I am an actual human being, not a planet. But, Jensen, you had mentioned something that Tommy Robinson is joining the Labour Party.
Yes. Okay? Now, I realise for everyone that's not British, this isn't necessarily going to make any sense. But over here, you have the Conservative Party, which are technically the party on the right, though that is open for question to say the least. And you've got the Labour Party, which is technically the party on the left. Now, Tommy Robinson is accused of being as far right as humanly possible. In fact, he generally has to actually tell Hitler to step to one side so as you can go past him. Okay? So what the unholy heck is he doing joining the Labour Party? This confuses me. This I may have to research. In fact, this I've actually got ready to research because it would be somewhat akin to, for you guys, if Ronald Reagan suddenly left the Conservatives and became far left. No, not just Democrat, full far left. That is how odd this is.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Go for it.
Right. With the exception of his ultra-nationalism, which, let's be perfectly frank, Tommy Robinson is an ultra-nationalist.
Oh, yes.
Okay. With that exception of just being a nationalist, what views of his don't match up or align with the Labour Party?
You know, I would be able to give you a long-ass list of those, except we're looking at the modern Labour Party, and, well, I'm just going to put it this way, okay? Over here, the Conservative Party is the party of the nobles and the elite. You okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
And the Labour Party is the party of the working man and, to put it bluntly, street scum. Sound okay so far?
Okay, so how does Tommy Robinson not fit into that?
Oh, to tell you how
especially
he don't
especially the view street scum.
Oh no, I worded that very, very carefully. I will tell you this by pointing out that the leader of the Labour Party is Sir Keir Starmer. That's right. The Labour Party has a Sir. The Conservatives don't.
Right.
So basically, yeah, you can see how this is a little bit confusing to us that are used to nobility over here.
I don't understand your confusion when it comes to policy, though, because Tommy Robinson is a leftist, right? I mean, sure, he had, like I said, with the exception of his nationalist views, all right?
Yeah.
With the exception of his, England uber alles views, right? And that's really what it was, right?
Yes.
Everything else is perfectly aligned with with the socialists, all right, within the Labor Party.
I wish you were
Everything.
wrong. I genuinely wish you were wrong, but I can see your argument there. I
I
really
was hoping you
can.
would say Party of the Peasants. Thank you,
I
Never.
was trying to be nice. Okay. It's difficult enough. I mean, I am a street scum. I am a working man. I am at the bottom end of society. And yet I've got the attitude.
Uh,
Go on.
are you really? All right. Because you were, let's be perfectly frank, okay, you were a soldier of the Queen. How
Exactly.
can you be considered lower class anymore? Once you're a soldier of the Queen, you got status at least in a different man. You're not one of them. You're not one of the peasants anymore because you're the ones oppressing the peasants, right? Wasn't that your
Unfortunately,
role in life?
no. No, depressingly. The people that oppress the peasants are the police, not the military. The military are just a bunch of jumped up idiots with uniforms on nowadays.
The oppressors
And
in
that is so
waiting. Is that
depressing.
what you're saying?
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, when, not if, when the police fail, it'll be the military that are called in to keep the peace.
Okay.
I hope I
Since we're
said that
talking
with
about the
enough.
military, let's get to the first
Yeah.
story of the day, shall we?
Yes.
All right. UK to send Challenger 2 tanks to the Ukraine. Rishi Sunak confirms. The UK is to send the Challenger 2 tanks to the Ukraine to bolster the country's war effort. Rishi Sunak. I was a bad pronunciation of just his full name, Sunak. All right. He spoke to the Ukraine's president, Vladimir Zelensky, versus Vladimir Putin. Voldemort. Actually, it's like a Voldemort. Excuse me, Voldemir. Doesn't that sound like Voldemort?
It literally does sound like it's waiting to come as
Okay.
the word in your mouth, doesn't it?
All right. In a call on Saturday, during which he confirmed that he would send equipment and additional artillery systems, Number 10 said. Downing Street said the move shows the UK's ambition to intensify support. The BB understands the initial commitment is for about a dozen tanks. Okay? Now, we're not going to talk about Zelensky and any of that other stuff. Hi, Seth. How's it going? Welcome. Jensen,
Yeah.
the Challenger 2 tank,
Yeah, before you
main battle
start
tank.
picking on, yeah, just before you start picking on the tank,
I'm not going to
defund
pick
the
on the tank.
BBC. Carry on.
Okay.
Okay. It's not to the Abrahams, therefore it's obviously a tin-tracked piece of rubbish. Obviously, because
Sure.
everyone knows America
Voldemort
makes the
equals
best.
Timothy I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Absolutely no worries, mate. That's perfectly reasonable.
Now, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
I was just pointing out that you were probably going to try and suggest that the M1 is the bestest tank ever, and everyone else's tank is rubbish, and the Challenger is rubbish. No?
I was never going to say that.
Oh, good.
That had nothing. Okay, there's certain things that the British do very well because, in a lot of ways, they are the inventors of some of these things. Okay, one, when you put your mind to it, you do jets really well.
Yes,
As
that
long
is
as you
true.
stay away from the French and as long as you
Yeah.
stay away from the Germans, your airframes were pretty doggone impressive, at least to me. All right, I had a lot of
I
respect for some
agree.
of those. All right, so
Hmm.
that's one. And two, you guys were the inventors of tanks. Okay,
Yes.
even during World War II, when your tanks were supposedly inferior to the German tanks, they weren't really inferior. They were made in a different manner, and people don't realize this, but during the Africa Corps campaigns against the Germans, the British abandoned a lot of their tanks that the Germans then did. Okay, good, we got tanks. put put the put the little German cross on it, and off we go.
See, they stole our stuff. It's disgusting.
Okay. you guys left it there for them to steal, all right? Because it's part of that British. Your officers, some of your officers weren't very good. Let's be honest.
No,
In
but
the
let's
initial part of
face
that campaign, some of your officers were less than stellar with some of the plans they came up with.
this is a fair statement, but let's be completely serious here, Nomad. Do we really want to talk about military leaving stuff behind? Cough, cough, Afghanistan. Cough, cough.
Not the different scenario. All right, there's a difference
Yes.
between leaving stuff behind in a battlefield for the enemy to use versus okay, the war's over, we're just gonna leave, and we did. We never
Yeah,
considered Afghanistan the kind of battlefield in the same manner. We should have. Don't
no.
get me wrong.
Oh,
We
yeah.
screwed up. Okay, don't get me wrong. We should
Yeah.
have, but that's a separate issue. But
Yes.
back to my back to the Challenger 2 tanks. Okay.
Yes.
Do you have a successor to the Challenger 2?
Not that I know of, but to be honest, it wouldn't shock me if they did after all the Challenger series are
You
getting quite
had
old
better
now.
because this is
Yeah.
one of the best tanks that's out there, and you're handing it to a bunch of corrupt idiots who are going to sell this information to the Russians. You understand this,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
All right, and sending a dozen tanks, okay. Let's be honest. In the kind of warfare that's going on right now, a dozen tanks is not gonna make a difference. Okay.
No, but it will cause one major problem. Probably the major reason why no other country has actually done it. The moment we send these tanks, we are, for all intents and purposes, going into that war because we're sending over our high class equipment, not just our spare equipment. Unless, of course, like you said, we've got a successor that I haven't
Well,
worked out
exactly.
yet.
That's why I was trying. What I was also what I was trying to point out. There is no freaking reason. Okay. The U.S. doesn't have a military anymore. It's a clown show.
He's not wrong.
Under the current regime, you're not wrong, right?
Yeah.
But you understand what I'm saying. We should not be sending these people heavy end weapon systems. All right, with all
Yes.
due respect, and I'm going to tell you something. No one's going to want to hear this. Okay, everyone has been touting this great offensive that the Ukrainians have been on to defeat the Russians, and they had the Russians on the run. They're not saying that today. You know why? Because there's pockets of Ukrainians that are getting ready to be exterminated. Yep. Because the Russians retreated, created a pocket. The Ukrainians flowed into it naturally. All right, and then the Russians are trying to surround these pockets. Now, whether or not they'll succeed is it's a matter of matter of war, right? Can people get out of it? Can people see what's going on, et cetera, et cetera? Okay.
Yeah.
But the stance still holds. You understand what I'm saying, right?
I do. And hey, Sixer.
Hello there.
Sorry,
Hello,
mate. I
Don't
basically
worry about it, mate.
out.
Batman was up. Batman was up. The first hour I did the solo, then Batman came on for the second hour. So it's all right. It's all right. No worries about it, mate.
I wanted to apologise, all right? That's all.
Don't worry about it, mate. I know you told me in advance the possibility they might not, so don't worry about it. If not turning up and not telling me is a different matter, but you told me in advance, so I was expecting.
Do try to, yes.
Yes. So,
and we're currently talking about British tanks in Poland.
British tank. Oh, they're our government's sending over some of our warrior tanks over there. Or was it Challenger tanks?
Challenger 2s.
Challenger 2s are all. Oh, they're our old models, aren't they? They're sending our surplus over.
That's what I'm hoping, that there is a Type 3 or something similar. I personally have not heard about anything yet, but then again, I haven't.
I've heard on GB News that they are sending over. It'll be the first time that Britain will be sending some tanks over to Ukraine. It'll be
they're sending over according to.
Like you said, I'm hoping it is our surplus.
Yeah.
According to this, it's you had a dozen tanks. Right.
Yeah.
The thing is, we shouldn't be sending things over there. We shouldn't be escalating the war. We should be trying at least breaking a deal. But Boris Johnson, being the twat that he is, said no, you will not negotiate with him. because there was
You
going to be
shall not pass.
there was going to be a negotiation between the two, and the twat that Boris Johnson is said to went up to Zelensky and says, "No, don't. You will not make this."
Yeah, but how many people are going to die in the meantime?
Exactly.
The idea that the Russians, all right, first of all, let's assume I'm just going to make a hypothetical. I'm not trying to say I have any special knowledge or anything else because I don't. Okay, I'm just putting a hypothetical. Let's say tomorrow one of the leaders of the Russian oligarchy, all right, cap Vladimir Putin, right? Do you think they're going to stop the war?
No.
Does
No.
anybody who believes that they're going to stop this war, that they're going to stop the battle, they're fooling themselves. The
Well, they're going to make
Russians
things.
were not going into the Ukraine with the idea of we're trying to take someone else's territory. They went in with the idea that they still have that this is critical to the lifeline of Russia. They consider this an absolute must win. Okay?
Yep.
I don't want people to misunderstand
But there
how the
was
Russians are looking at this. I'm not rooting for the Russians. I'm not rooting for the Ukrainians either, to be quite
no,
frank. I
no.
consider it a
They're
civil
both,
war.
they're both as corrupt as anything. But I'm saying there was a way out. A way out was given to him, but then it was they didn't give him a way out. There was one, but Boris come in and other just took that away. That's what I'm
I'm
saying.
about to get incredibly British here and possibly in trouble, so what the heck. It doesn't matter that a bunch of Ukrainians died. They're not British. Who cares if they die? They're just peasants. Good God.
Gee, tell us how you
right. You know I'm right, though. Come on.
Yeah, but why we should be getting involved? We should not be getting involved.
Well, yeah,
No,
well, we should, and neither should we in the United States. We shouldn't be sending them
Yeah.
money. We shouldn't be
All
sending
that
them anything.
all that money they're wasting, thrown over there, that could be using in I'm sorry, I don't want to sound very nationalistic. Should be using here. More money is being spent over abroad than is being spent on NHS and everything else.
Oh, yes.
So we were talking about the NHS earlier.
The NHS is a whole level of shit.
All right, well, we have different views of things on that when it comes to how we do things here in the U.S. versus because I was explaining something. People don't understand certain things about America. For example, if we call for an ambulance, if we set up to call 911 emergency, and then we say, okay, we need an ambulance in a place. Okay, in any major city in the United States. Okay, generally, what's going to respond are an ambulance, but also paramedics. Okay, and paramedics are located or normally co-located with fire departments. Okay, fire departments are public services. Now they're not nationally public; they're always local public services, but they're public services nonetheless.
Okay.
Okay, so they're paid for by the government or a government, right? So to say that we don't have government funded, care to a large extent is, well, yes and no. Okay. You still have government services, like I said, the emergency services and everything are generally some type of publicly funded service, right? But my question with the Challenger 2 tanks, going back to this, right, is if these are these are Challenger 2s, right, which are the upgraded versions, right? If you're giving them the entire full suite with not just the weapon system, but all the other integrated stuff with the optics, with the communications and everything else. Quite frankly, it's a mistake because you're basically handing that information over to the Russians. Because I know that the Ukrainians are going to sell it to them. They're going to sell them that information at some point. Maybe not today. So I'm hoping you guys have another tank online ready to go. I really do.
We probably don't.
I don't know.
Right.
It's supposed to be a Challenger 3, but I don't know what's happening with that.
Yeah, well.
Well, I think
Our
you
illustrious
guys
government.
if I remember right, you guys were working on something with a bigger gun. You're like going to a 130 millimeter gun.
Oh, nice.
I think that is the Challenger 3.
That's a big gun. People
Oh,
don't know.
yeah,
That's a big freaking round. I'm not sure how many
yeah.
rounds the tank is going to be able to
The
hold because that's a
BFG,
big
mate,
freaking
it's a
round.
BFG.
It makes me think that
Big
it's German
fucking
in a lot
gun.
of ways. that's the German
Oh no, 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 no. The Germans win. They had Big Bertha. That was what, something like 200 millimeters. That wasn't a gun. That was a rock from space. Okay, that thing was
yeah, but
evil. I loved
but
it.
they had to fire it from a freaking rail car. So as long as you
Yes.
had railroad tracks
Yeah.
nearby, it could do some damage.
Well,
But
you
you
say
needed the railroad
nearby.
tracks.
You say nearby, Nomad. That thing had the sort of range that the term nearby could be defined by, well, in your case, state, not necessarily just country. I mean, come on. Let's be honest here.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay, to an extent that's true. You ready for the next story?
go for it, mate.
Go ahead.
Peru protests. President Bolurate, I can't pronounce it. All right, will not resign despite weeks of violence. Peru's President Dina Bolurate,
Bless
the
you.
closest I'm going to come to it, all right, has refused to step down despite weeks of anti-government protests rocking the deeply divided country. I will not resign. My commitment is with Peru, she said in a
Oh, it's
live
Peru.
televised address on Friday. Violent
Don't know who
clashes and
this is.
go ahead.
I don't know who this is. I've never heard it. No news. Mind you, they're saying again, I don't watch the BBC, so.
All right. Violent clashes in recent weeks have left dozens dead and scores injured. All right, Ms. All right, Ms. Dina. I'm just going to call her Ms. Dina now, right? Because I can at least pronounce that. Right? Said that she
Yep.
regretted the deaths that happened during these clashes with security forces, but she insisted she would continue as leader. The violence was triggered by the arrest of the former president Pedro Castillo in December after he attempted to suspend Congress after losing an impeachment vote. All right, Mr. Castillo's supporters have been demanding new elections and calling for Dina's removal, but the president rejected the possibility of calling a constitutional assembly as demanded by the protesters, saying it could not happen overnight. Oh, that's probably true, but it doesn't mean she can't call one, right?
That is true, but I should point out one thing before you carry on. Have you noticed how much trouble is going on in South America recently? You had Brazil. Well, let's be honest. You've got Brazil still kicking off. You've got Peru kicking off. It would not surprise me if several of the other countries down there kick off soon.
Oh, you
Oh,
have Ecuador has been having all sorts of problems as well, right?
there we go.
There's a Argentina was really shaky for a while, although it seems to have settled down. Obviously, like you said, Brazil is okay. Brazil at some point, whether people want to like this or not, Brazil at some point is going to have a military coup. Okay, the military is going to step in. Okay,
Yeah.
now you can call it a coup.
My icon.
You can call it a coup, but in the Brazilian constitution, they have it in there that if they can't stop the violence, that the military is obligated to step in. So it's kind of like we're just going to follow what the Constitution says and take charge. All right, and I say that because what you have going on down there, okay, isn't going to fix anything.
Nope.
This is the problem with communism in Latin America and the communists in Latin America. Okay, they can't solve anything. They're not going to solve anything.
Nomad,
Okay.
that's not real communism. Everyone knows that.
Yeah. Well, that real communism has led to absolute starvation in Venezuela, and a lot of people fled
Yeah.
Venezuela into Colombia and Brazil, the northern part of Brazil, right, which
Yeah.
is helping to destabilize this entire region. But the people that have fled Venezuela, they're not trying to spread Marxism. They're saying, hey, this stuff doesn't work. So they become a destabilizing influence across that entire region. mainly because if they have to go somewhere, and they would love to flood into America, right? All these countries. The problem is they got to go through Mexico, and Mexico right now is in a civil war. You have the Sinaloa cartel is basically just shooting up the military right now. So it's all gone to heck in a handbasket. All right. Now with
Yeah.
Peru, all this stems from way back when they had that guy Fuji or Fumi, right? Was their president. Ever since then, and with the start of his presidency, all right, Peru has become less and less stable. And the reason for it is, quite frankly, is money. Peru for Americans, people don't even realize this. Peru for Americans is a tourist destination. There are a lot of Americans that want to flood into Peru, all right, as a tourist spot to see Machu Picchu and the other Incan, relics that are out
Makes
there,
sense.
right? And Peru has they have some other nice features. They've got beaches and things like that, right? The Well, when you have such a well-known feature like that, it can bring in a lot of money, but of course, like everything else, people see a disparity in wealth, all right? They see I'm living in a freaking hut here where I've got to basically try to sit up there and steal wood to warm myself in the wintertime, and then there's a guy there in the palatial palace, all right, just down the road. All right, and they see that disparity and they think, okay, the way to fix this disparity, okay, is they must have stolen something from me. Whether they stole or not, who knows? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they didn't steal, because a lot of these areas are just mired in the acceptance of graft and corruption. They accept it as a life. They accept it as a way of life. See, and this is my problem with these people. This is my problem with leftists. They accept corruption, and once that mentality seeps in, whether it's the Democrat Party, whether it's wherever it is, if you start accepting corruption as the norm, you're screwed, because you're never going to get away with it. If you go, well, that guy's corrupt. Well, yeah, well, that's all well and good. But if you were in that position, what would you do? The
Right, I'm
same
gonna have to.
thing.
I'm
Go
gonna have to
ahead,
drop out,
Caesar.
guys. I've got to get going. I've got my other half to see. You guys take care. I'll catch you
All right, Sixer,
on there.
you take it easy.
Oh,
No, I just dropped in for that. I thought I'd drop in for the last 15 minutes before I have
yep.
to head out and say
No
hi.
worries,
No
mate.
problem,
You
dude.
have a good
Take it
time.
And
easy.
say
See you
to
later.
them, how could you?
We'll,
It's
we'll be
funny
talking
about that
about
you
her
saying,
later.
how could you? Yes,
I
the
just did.
goblin's
I just
back.
did. Just like that. Bye.
Bye.
See you
And so
guys.
you know, Nomad, from Ms. Murder, in Chicago, where I worked, we had entire floors of students who escaped Venezuela and Argentina, and all of them spoke about how bad it is there. In all fairness, I don't know about Venezuela. I realise my knowledge of this is, to say the least, bad. But Argentina's a terminal shithole. How do I know? They were the last one to declare war on England.
Well, the Britain, they declared war in the UK. Let's be honest, it wasn't just England.
You mean that the other peasants get a choice? Fascinating.
But anyway, aside from that, no, I hear you. But
Mhm.
Argentina has always been right. Do you know who Evita is? Evita Peron.
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay. Why anyone would glorify that psychopath, I will never know.
I hoped you'd say that. Hmm.
I have never understood why people were writing songs of praise for that lunatic.
Yeah.
Okay? For people who don't know, she became the leader after I believe her husband was killed. All right? And she was Imelda Marcos on steroids. But she was good looking. All right? But she was
Hmm.
a dyed in the wool Marxist dictator who had no compunction about just telling the troops to open fire on people.
Sounds almost
and
English.
and yet people wrote sonnets about her, or as if she was a great, wonderful person.
Yep.
Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure she did help certain people she decided to help for political purposes and things like that. Okay. But overall, the population under Argentina, under her rule, suffered immensely.
I can explain it for you if you'd like. Good PR team. There you go. That's the answer.
I think it was them wishing for a new aristocracy, to be honest.
Wouldn't to be honest, you wouldn't surprise.
That may not be the best way of looking
No. Actually, a question for you, because you'll know this much more than I do. I realise that North America, as and of itself, does not have any sort of royalty. But does South America? I don't know. Or are they all republics?
No, they're all for the most part some type of republic of some sort, right? But really,
Okay,
what they
cool.
are, with the exception with the exception of Brazil, right?
Mhm.
They are dictatorships, right? Argentina is a sometimes dictatorship, sometimes not. Okay, but they just waffle between dictatorships. All right, are you a right wing dictator or are you a left wing dictator? And the only other stable Latin American country, right, that exists, and it is for the most part stable, right, is Costa Rica.
Wow.
And the reason Costa Rica is stable is because there's nothing there. I mean, nobody cares. Okay,
Yeah.
it's an odd country. Okay, it's a proud country. The Costa Ricans are a proud people,
Yeah.
but they are they are just they're like, okay, whatever you guys, well, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. Okay, whatever you guys want, just leave us alone.
Yep.
All right, it's not that their country isn't corrupt, right? It doesn't mean that corruption isn't all over the place in their country, because it is, right? But they don't have the kind of warfare going on for territories and things that you see in all the other Latin American countries like Guatemala, or Central American countries like Guatemala, El Salvador, right? Even the South American countries like even Belize is far deadlier in many ways, right, than all these other areas. Costa Rica, for whatever reason, is, well, it's just Costa Rica.
Sounds basically like a libertarian party town. Let's be blunt.
It is. They do have a lot of parties. There are some beaches and everything, and people go there for parties and stuff. And that's where all if you want to talk about the A celebs, you want to know where the A celebs actually go to on vacation. Well, people. I mean, when
Oh.
I say A celebs, I mean people like Giselle Bundchen, Tom Brady's wife, and everything. They go to Costa Rica,
Oh.
right? They don't go to Cancun or Acapulco, right?
That's where I
Um,
thought they would go. I'll be honest.
or the people talk about Rio. The only time that people go to Rio is during Carnival.
Hmm.
Okay, that's the only time that they go to
Yeah.
Rio, just so they can say, I did Carnival in Rio, right? It's just kind of like
Yeah.
a ticket item, right?
Hmm.
Ready for the next story?
Ready when you are, mate.
A battle between Disney and activist Pelt brews. Here's how the situation may unfold. Oh. And from CNBC News. Activist investor Nelson Peltz plans to mount a proxy fight for a seat on Disney's board. Disney offered Peltz, the founding partner of the Trian Fund Management, a role as a board observer and asked him to sign a standstill agreement, which Peltz declined. Here's our thoughts on the matter. Oh, this ought to be good.
Mhm.
Sometimes a board observer position can be beneficial, particularly for investors who do not have a lot of broad experience and are less likely to be a regular contributor to board discussions. But offering Pelt the position as a board observer is like saying to Whitney Houston, you can join the band, but you're not allowed to sing. All
In
right,
other words, dumb.
all right. There is no way that Disney thought for a second Pelt would accept this offer, and there is no way he should have accepted it. Okay. It is curious as to why Pelt started this proxy fight in the first place, and why Disney is resisting it. Pelt acquired his position when Bob Chapek was CEO, and likely had a plan to replace him with someone Pelt had already identified. That would have been a great activist plan, but it went awry a week later when Disney announced it had replaced him with former CEO Bob Iger. Now, does this or does this not sound like Game of Thrones?
Oh, yes.
Okay, this guy was working with one guy, and when they assassinated the king, in this case, Bob Iger, right? Or I mean, not Iger, but Bob Chapek, right?
Epic, yep.
And Iger reassumed the throne. The old king rearose while at the same time doing in the other claimants to the throne.
Yep.
I realize that you British are probably we recognize this.
Yes, this is
This
perfect.
is
I'm
for
waiting
you
for you
guys.
to
This is
actually suggest
standard
there's something
fare,
wrong
right?
here. This is normal. I expected nothing less. Was I supposed to?
Uh, knowing Trian's history and process, the firm had probably been working on that plan for many months, as it was waiting for the perfect time to build its position, only to have the rug pulled out from under it. It is unfortunate that all of Trian's hard work developing its plan somewhat went to naught. But at the time, the firm should have regrouped and developed a different approach to taking into account the new circumstances. That plan should not have included opposition to Iger. Okay, let's talk about this for a moment. What this guy is trying to do is he's trying to buy Disney.
Yes.
That's what this group is trying to do. Okay. Disney is in a lot of trouble
Okay.
because Disney did two things that can get you into a lot of trouble. Okay. Overgrowth, when you grow a company too large through acquisition, all right, with a lack of assimilation, that's their first problem. The other problem is Bob Iger, along with Bill Eisner. Remember Eisner? I think it was Bill Eisner, wasn't it? Was it his name Bill?
So sounds right.
All right. I'm gonna have to Google this.
To be honest, I'm surprised you didn't say
Michael
when
Eisner.
it comes to.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Mike
Michael.
Eisner.
Okay. All right. I thought you, when you was talking about Disney doing the bad thing, I thought you was going to suggest, and I may get in trouble for this. I thought you were actually going to suggest that they allowed their employees to molest small children.
Oh no
But
no no.
I guess you was going for another direction.
Well, in a slightly sense. Okay. All right. I was going to bring up the fact that that is their proclivity to try and molest children. Yes.
It is.
Okay.
I mean, you can say what you like. It really is
All
disturbing.
right. That is a problem that they have in the companies. They brought in these these uh, uh, these people who want to destroy the nuclear family. Okay. Michael Eisner started that road. Okay. Bob Iger, when he gave it to Bob, turned this over to Bob Iger. Okay. Bob Iger took it on steroids, and he replaced the entire media departments, right? Especially the the heads of the animation studios. And you know what they stopped doing? They stopped producing family friendly content in favor of agenda content.
Hmm. As you're
Okay.
going to point out with the story you got coming.
And their agenda, quite frankly, is a normalization of the destruction of the nuclear family. It's absolutely antithetical, all right, to Disney's approach before. Disney created the entire idea, all right. They did. They created the entire idea of the G-rated movie. Entertainment for everyone. You can talk about every nasty thing that you want to about Walt Disney, but what Walt Disney's movies, and when he was in charge, Walt Disney's movies all right, weren't just approved for general audience, they were enjoyable to the general audience.
Yeah.
They had relatable things from a child of 4 and 5 all the way to the oldest adult in them, where people would see things in the movies their way. You cannot take a look at Disney movies during that time frame and not respect this capability because it's so rare. If you want to know what the difference is, take a look at the Parent Trap back when it was first done, the first version of the Parent Trap, and compare it to the Parent Trap that came out with Lindsay Lohan. And I'm not saying that that was a bad movie, but the difference is stark. And what I mean by that is your child can watch the Parent Trap, okay, by Disney, all right, in the early part of the Disney era, right? And there are all sorts of adult innuendos and things that are going on in the background that go over the child's head because they're so interested in the child. Yeah. You don't get that same sense with the one with Lindsay Lohan. You don't. The story is still okay, but the overall package with it is not. It's not the same. Okay? And it's not the only movie that you can see that in. Just take a look at, for kids, if you ever saw Mary Poppins as a child, okay, and you've never seen it since, watch it now.
Yeah, I know they redone it and it's horrific.
No, not the new one. Watch the same one.
Oh, okay.
Watch the one with Sandy, what was her name? Sandy Duncan, all right? Watch the one with Sandy Duncan, all right, that you watched as a child. Watch it again as an adult. It's a different movie. It's an absolute different movie. You'll look at it and go, how the hell did I miss all this?
I'm sorry, who the hell is Sandy Duncan? I always knew Julie Andrews.
Oh, Julie Andrews, I'm sorry, you're right.
Oh, thank God for that. Okay. I thought it was another one's come out and done my brain in.
Sandy Duncan was the one who did the Sound of Music.
All right. No, that's Julie Andrews again.
Is it? No,
it is.
Sandy
no, it's
Duncan
Julie
is
Andrews,
in this. I keep confusing these
two. Okay, now Julie Andrews, you can say what you like about Sound of Music and things like that, but she is a very, very good actress. Her politics, questionable. Actress, awesome.
Well, but the acting back then, the actors were kept in their lane, right? They weren't trying to be politicians, right?
Yeah.
The problem with acting today, we'll get into that later. Okay. A big part of the problem with the actors today is acting is too easy today.
Yeah.
And I know people are like, what?
No, I agree.
Actors back in the day, not only did they have to sacrifice for their craft, okay, but they actually had to do hard work on the sets and stuff. Many of the sets were on site, right? Sure, you had the ones that were doing the sets internally, but even then, if you go back to those days, they were multi-rolled, right? And for example, if you see, movies like Singing in the Rain and things like that, right? You had to dance and you had to practice and you had to physically get these things right? Or if it wasn't a movie like that, you were on site, you were on at a place, and I can tell you right now, some of the places that they would go to were always these out of the way places in the middle of nowhere. They're putting in 12-hour days just to get onto the set for 5 minutes worth of screen time. Right? Nowadays, they do everything with graphics. Okay, it's not as hard on these guys as it used to be. It's not.
No.
And you can tell
it. A way of considering it is this: they're no longer actors; they're entertainers.
Yes.
I think that is not an unreasonable description.
Right. So, but this guy here, we're back to talk about Disney. Okay. Bob Iger brought in all these people that had agendas. Okay, and he paid them well, and they got used to that. And then they would sneak in a little bit of their agenda here and a little bit of their agenda there, and they changed the entire Disney culture from within. And let's be honest, it's a corrupt, degenerate, hedonistic culture that now permeates, all right, everything from top to bottom.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's not saying there weren't degenerate things that happened, all right, back in the 40s. Okay, people don't even know this. Okay, that there was a celebration that Disney decided to pay for and have people go to a Palm Beach resort back in, I think it's in the 40s, right? For the celebration for the success of, it was either Cinderella or Snow White, right? Well, it turned into all right, he was paying for it all, paying for the alcohol, paying for the, and the people treated it like a freaking prat. The employees, Disney employees, treated it like a frat party, literally,
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me though.
right? And Walt was absolutely humiliated that they did this.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I realize I'm going far off subject with what's going on here, but there's things that you have to understand about Walt Disney. Walt Disney was a regular guy. He wasn't perfect. Okay, but he was a regular guy that had a drive to succeed and had a vision. And him and his brother was very business talented, all right, so could rein in some of the excesses that Walt himself could get lapsed into, right? And so he put together this thing, it, it, this giant, right? This Mickey Mouse giant, and he immediately expanded it. This is what people don't understand. There was He's the one who said, okay, we're gonna have animated things for kids. He then immediately expanded into movies, right? Where he created really the first highly successful animated movie in Snow White, right? And from there, and people don't know this also, a lot of the animation, a lot of the techniques for animation back then were state of the art, and I mean Walt Disney, invented this stuff. They never talk about that. Okay? They never talk about the things that Walt Disney. Now, Walt Disney, as an animator himself, as a drawer, right, as a cartoonist himself, yeah, he could draw. He could draw better than I could, obviously, right? But he wasn't the best. He wasn't the best, right?
Yeah.
He didn't have to be.
Nomad, I've just sent you a link that was given to me by Oz. Just take a look. I don't even know what to say.
I'm terrified of it.
It's from Oz, so that should give you full and fair warning.
Okay, it was Pinocchio. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's horrifying.
It's well, you could say that it's horrifying, but it's like I said, it turned into a freaking frat party. When people get drunk and liquored up, they do all sorts of stupid things. All right.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Especially when somebody else is paying for
it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know this as well as I do.
Right? No. We're nothing but absolute saints when in the military. We never did anything like that ever.
Dude, I know what I know what the military was like. When you get a bunch of soldiers liquored up, several things are going to happen,
and most of them did. Yeah,
they were going to happen. There were certain things. There was going to be a fight. You didn't know necessarily who. You didn't know who with, but you knew there was going to be one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if there was females involved.
Oh yeah.
All right. There's going to be various fights, and at different points in time, articles of clothing all over the place, one way or another.
Yes.
That's the way it was. All right. I'm not saying they turned into wild orgies. I'm not saying that they wouldn't either, though.
No. Let's be honest. A bunch of drunk soldiers are very much like animals. Eat, fight, fucking rocks. That literally is the only things that matter to these people.
at that
Something
point.
to eat, something to screw, and something to pick a fight with. Everything else is a rock. Which means it's just everything else is something else to fight with, but you don't fight back.
Right. So yeah, Disney, but Walt himself was not like that. Walt himself was a bit of a prude. Okay. And people constantly go after Walt Disney because he was very anti-union. Okay. And quite frankly, I'm on Walt's side when it comes to this stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a Walt Disney walked up to the guys, right, who were the union guys or union, and said, "Don't form a union. I'll give you guys everything that you're asking for in this litany of things, right? As long as you don't form a union officially."
And they did.
And they said, "Okay, well, screw you. We're going to do it," because now they think he was talking from a position of weakness, right? So they formed a union. He said, "Fine. What we're going to do now is I'm going to institute." You remember the old idea of punch cards when you punch in and time out and everything? He made the animators' lives hell, right? Because
Yeah.
he said, "Okay, you want to treat me like a corporation. You don't want to treat us as equals and talking about this and try to talk this out with a disagreement. You want to go this way? Fine. I'll be the corporate boss that you didn't want to see."
Don't
More than
blame him.
anything else, that set his mindset. All right,
Yeah.
and some of the people he had that were working it that were great enemies, right? They were also freaking. Let's be perfectly frank here, dyed-in-the-wool communists, right?
Yeah.
Die-hard communists, all right, who he was feeding, all right, and they didn't respect him. They didn't respect anything but themselves, just like all communists do. Okay, but with the content he put out, Old Yeller, okay, uh, like I said, the Parent Trap, the the uh, Disneyland, all these things that he had in mind that he put together, right, were all his effort of trying to make a better world. Overall, it was, and people were like, "Well, yeah, but he was a raging anti-Semite." He did have anti-Semitic proclivities. I'm not going to deny that. Okay, but it was based as its basis though wasn't what people think it was. It wasn't because he hated quote unquote Jews per se. It was because he felt that Jews per se were the ones that created Marxism. Okay, I know that sounds stupid, all right, but like it or not, there's a kernel of truth because Frederick Engels and Karl Marx were both quote unquote Jewish. Okay,
You realize that what you are saying is Walt Disney, the ultimate anti-communist.
he was.
These are the words you are using.
He was. He
No,
absolutely.
I'm not disagreeing. It's just hilarious to think.
All right, that's one. Now, like I said, does that mean that he had a, like I said, he had an issue with Jews? Yeah, he had an issue with what he considered the Jewish problem. Not, but that wasn't the same way that Hitler looked at it. He didn't look at it from that standpoint. He looked at it as the leftist communist front.
Yeah.
All right, and uh, whether you like it or not, you can see why he said that. Whether it was irrational or not, you can understand his position from it. Right. That's the problem when you start dealing with things and you get it to an irrational point of view, right? Because that's what it was. Now, did he go out there and intentionally fire people if they were communists? Yes, he did. If he found out you were a communist, he found a way to get rid of you,
I'm
right?
okay with this. Mm-hmm.
Because he felt they were anti-American and that they were problems. Okay. Did he fire people because of their quote unquote religious beliefs? I mean, in other words, if they were a religious Jew, right? No, no, right? But if he found out you were dabbling with socialism, he was going to make your life miserable till you quit. Okay?
But what you're really telling me is he's your new hero. This is what you're saying. Okay.
No, I'm not saying
Now
he's
we
evil.
understand.
Okay, but he's not the ogre people think he is.
No.
Okay, and he had a great vision, And Walt Disney World, what was that stupid thing that Walt Disney Presents that was on for years?
Yeah.
Right, wonderful, wonderful episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and of course he was unapologetically American. Let's be perfectly frank. He was
Don't know what
he
you're
was
talking about.
he was unapologetically American, right? Daniel
Yes.
Boone, all right, the series on Daniel
Mhm.
Boone, the
Yep.
the Swamp Fox, several of these Walt Disney shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were all pro patriotic types of shows, right?
You
When
mean the
he
things we
died,
should be having now? Yeah.
well, when he died, the the company was turned over to his brother, but his brother was not the visionary that Walt was, and his brother Roy tried to carry on what he thought Walt would want. Does that make sense?
That's
And
horribly wrong.
so from the 1970s to the 1980s, you have this languishing of Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when Michael Eisner came in, Michael Eisner changed several things. Right. First of all, Michael Eisner created, what was the name of that company? Touchstone.
All right.
Right. Touchstone was under Disney.
Yeah.
Okay, but Touchstone was Disney with R ratings. Okay,
Yeah.
so Touchstone Pictures would do things that would take an R or an adult content only rating. All right, and Michael Eisner brought that in because see, Roy would never do anything that wasn't G. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right, he wanted always to keep the Walt's vision of always family entertainment alive. Right. The reality was though that people looked at that the same way they looked at the 1950s, you know, Leave It to Beaver kind of thing. Oh, that's all passe. But in the 70s, that's what they were, everyone was saying, right?
Yeah.
So these were all part and parcel how they needed to change. Okay, so he brings in Touchstone. Eisner, I think it was Eisner, brought in Touchstone, right, so that you could do movies like, quite frankly, Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? Which I don't know if it was a Touchstone production, but it was. I think it was still under Disney's umbrella somehow, right? You could do movies like that, okay, um, which were, let's be honest, highly successful,
Yeah.
right? Until
Oh yeah.
recently. this new version
Yeah.
coming out, I have no intention of watching,
No,
but
we don't even talk about that. Okay, just it's
all right. But
let it die.
now this guy Peltz, I don't know anything about his attitude from the social perspective, right? I
Yeah.
don't know when they talk about this guy's an activist investor. I don't know what they mean by that. I don't know if he's one of when they say activist, if he's one of these corporate raider type guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sort
Um,
of things you mean.
the kind of character that they expected Richard Greer's character in Pretty Woman to be.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if that's what they mean by that or not. Okay, but if he's an activist along the lines of the social activism thing, this guy is will destroy Disney just as fast as Bob Iger did. And Bob Iger, the idea of going back to Bob Iger to fix anything, no, they're not. You got to change the culture now. In order to change the culture, you got to get rid of the vermin that are running it right now, who believe their message is more important than the story.
Yeah.
Okay, and that we're gonna beat you over the head and shoulders because this is how I see the world, right? Even though the world that I see is what I think of it as from somewhere way back in the past, right? So I don't really care what happens with this, right? But when Disney releases Raiders of the Lost Ark, this new one that they've got coming up, it's going to destroy the franchise if they actually release it. Okay, there's no fixing it.
I'll be shocked if they actually manage to make that good. Because whether or not you like Harrison Ford, that's a personal decision. But he played a really good character there. And if they start making it, he's like transgender, half black, half I don't know bloody what. That is not Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is your alpha male, like it or not.
Well, he wasn't the overpowered alpha male, right?
No,
He was
that's
the
true.
everyday guy that struggled and overcame.
Yeah,
That's who Indiana Jones. If you watch the latest Raw Talk, how many times did he get beaten?
pretty much
He
every
got
scene.
beaten a lot.
Yeah.
He won some fights. He lost some fights. Right.
Oh yeah.
All right. The guy was not Superman in any way, shape, or form.
No.
All right.
And we
And
don't
it's
ever talk about Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. That is just pretend that didn't happen. Okay.
well, they should have ended it with him in the Last Crusade. Okay.
Agree.
I think that the second Indiana Jones was okay. All right.
Yep.
I think the problem with the second Indiana Jones is it didn't have the female character in it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you had been able to keep that same female character, because there was, let's be honest, there's certain times when actors and actresses have on-screen chemistry that bleeds over and you can see it.
Oh yes.
And I'm not saying they had to be lovers or great friends or anything else, but if they have on-screen chemistry, all right, those things are seen by people, all right,
Yes.
and it helps the movie. It really
Yeah.
does help the movie and bring out the experience, right? But from what I've heard, they're going to do this time travel thing where his goddaughter or his granddaughter, I don't know what it would be, all right, is going to basically subsume his role, right? So
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and they're going to kill off Indiana Jones at the end of this. Okay,
Of course they are. Mm-hmm.
so end of the franchise. Let's
Mm-hmm.
move on.
Yeah.
Speaking of Disney, Phineas and Ferb are coming back with new episodes, baby. Right now from Polygon. I guess Polygon does basically animated news. Right.
Yeah.
Beloved Walt Disney Channel animated series Phineas and Ferb will return with 40 new episodes. Disney announced Friday. The revival comes from a new deal with the series creator Dan Provenmire, right? He will return to the show to produce these new episodes, which will be a split across 2 seasons, or which will be split across 2 seasons. It has been the greatest pleasure of my career to see how an entire generation of kids and parents have embraced the characters and the humor of Phineas and Ferb. He said in a news release, "I'm eagerly looking forward to diving back into the show for them and for a whole new generation." Now, for all those who don't know, right, Phineas and Ferb, okay, it's an enjoyable story romp woke cartoon. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's woke. Not in the sense of sexuality, though, per se. Okay?
It's not yet. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, at least not yet. All right. But in the sense that girl power, yay, all that other stuff, yeah, there was a lot of that. All right. But it wasn't treated over the top. Okay? And that's what made the difference. Okay? That's what made the difference. They were interested in these stories and continuing certain aspects of things. Okay, so watching Phineas Ferb episodes, all right, for kids, especially what tweens, you know, the early teenage years.
Yeah.
This was a phenomenon. Okay, and it's
Oh, oh,
nostalgia based, and even today, kids would watch it today and they'll get a lot of it. Plus the fact that it has catchy little you know, pop singles attached to it all over the
I'm now about to say something. I never watched it. I have no. I am literally learning about this as you describe it. For me, when it comes to cartoons, I had the Animaniacs, which was awesome, and we had Rugrats, which a lot of people were going to look at me weirdly, but was actually quite awesome.
Animaniacs were a spoof cartoon.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They were awesome. They were funny. And the other one was Dexter's Lab. Dexter's Lab. Now that was cool.
Dexter's Laboratory by Gwendy Tartakovsky.
Okay, cool.
If I can pronounce his name correctly, which I can't.
Okay. Now that was absolutely brilliant. I loved him and Dee Dee. They were outstanding as a team.
It was definitely a it definitely had these are better cartoons than what you have coming out today. I'll be honest with you. Right?
Oh yeah.
The whole if you ever watch Steven Universe, there is nothing, honestly, nothing useful in Steven Universe.
Never
Absolutely
seen
nothing.
it.
Right?
Fair?
You don't. Okay.
Oh. Okay.
It's not worth it. Right? Part of it
Okay.
is because of the agenda stuff is over the top. Okay. They do storylines where the agenda stuff isn't over the top. There are some episodes of Steven Universe that are okay, but overall, the episodes are over the top. The agenda stuff is way over the top,
Okay.
right? And it's although it isn't as misandrist as many other shows. Does that make sense? I'll be the first person to admit that. You can take a look at the Steven Universe with the gems, right? And the gems are all female, by the way. Okay. They're all these alien or extra dimensional females, right? I'm not going to go into the things. So these are cartoons that I watched because my kids were watching them, right? And I was like, when I started seeing this stuff, I was like, you guys shouldn't be watching this. So, but Steven Universe is, like I said, a couple episodes. Some of the episodes are fun, right? Too many of the episodes though are over the top. All right, but it's not misandrist. They don't take a look at men and basically put down men every chance they get. That's a reality.
Yeah.
Okay, and believe it or not, that is a problem in many shows. Okay, in many shows today, they always the male character, all the male characters are just shit. All of them.
Oh, you've got a show to talk about soon that's really bad. I'm just gonna say Velma. Cough, cough, cough.
Oh, you want to go talk about Velma? No, but my comment about
Yeah.
this is let me take one more comment about talking about this.
Yeah.
Okay,
Go for it.
Phineas and Ferb was initially produced in 2008. Right, it's when it premiered, I think. That's 20 years ago, dude. Well, okay, 15 years ago.
Yeah, but don't.
Okay, it's 15 years old. They're going back to while I appreciate they're trying to make money and they're trying to say, okay, we got to pivot away from all the stupid nonsense, like I said, Steven Universe crap. This it's a good pivot. All right, you'll probably make money with it, but to be honest, give us something new. Give us something creative. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So, but this is just as bad. Since you mentioned Velma, HBO's Max's Velma is getting absolutely savaged in reviews. This is from Forbes magazine. Okay, Velma always seemed a bit of an odd experiment, a reimagining of Scooby-Doo in an adult animation format where the danger is real, the jokes are more crass. It could have worked, but by all accounts, it doesn't. Not at all. The first two episodes of Velma arrived on HBO Max. They haven't really impressed critics, but the audience reviews are brutal. This is the Rotten Tomatoes score, right?
Oh God, I've just seen
50 from the critics, 9. They got a 9 from the audience score.
Okay, my turn. One of the major problems I've got with this, and people are going to say, "Oh, it's because you're sexist, because you're racist." No, no, you can stick all of that. I actually don't overly care that they changed the race of these people. They got rid of Scooby Doo. I mean, this whole show is based on Velma from Scooby Doo, and they've got rid of the goddamn dog. What is wrong with these people?
Oh, were you going to sit up there and encourage them to do a story of bestiality on the show?
I'm just going to say they're probably going to do it anyway.
You want to know?
Okay,
You want to know the truth of the matter?
go on.
This would have worked. This would have worked
Okay.
if you called it, all right, Veronica. Okay.
Yeah.
If it wasn't Fred, okay,
Yeah.
if it was Frederico or Gustav, right?
Yeah.
Instead of Shaggy, you know, some other type of thing, right? You could have
Yeah.
had all those characters as
Yeah.
obvious parodies of Scooby Doo,
hmm Yeah.
and this show could have worked.
I assume you know about what they've done to Shaggy in these
I
series.
do. Well, all right. First of all,
Yeah.
I don't care that you quote unquote made him black,
No, couldn't give a
but you
monkeys.
made him a black dope fiend.
Yeah.
People always thought Shaggy on his own, all right, in the original cartoon was obviously a dope head.
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, so that the dope part is in this, but you're gonna sit there and make him a black crackhead. that wasn't a very good idea. Just putting it out there.
And somehow Daphne is half Oriental. Oh, and a drug runner.
Yeah, which, like I said, they could have done this right. The Diane instead of Daphne, Diana, right?
Yeah.
And you could have made these if it was an obvious parody of the
Yes.
show. It would have people would have loved it.
Oh yeah.
Okay, this is the difference between Venture Brothers, all right, and the show. Venture Brothers, let's be honest, was Johnny Quest for adults, right?
Yeah.
That's really what it was.
Yeah.
The stupid Johnny Quest things were for adults, right? With an adult theme attached to it, right? And that's why people loved the Adventure Brothers,
Yeah.
right? This could have had the same type of style to it if they'd have done it the same way, and would have appealed to the same group of people, adolescent, freaking, later teen, adolescent, young adults, right? That get off on that crap, right? But ever since Beavis and Butthead hit the world, where everyone wanted to be gross and crass, and let's see how gross and crass they are, this has been the litany of things.
Yeah.
Even and it's adult entertainment. It's not meant for children.
No.
Okay, which is okay to a point. All right. Like I said, if they'd have done this as a parody, they probably would have had people watching it. If they'd have done it as a parody,
hmm
okay. If you didn't try to keep it in the same universe, you didn't try to keep it the same way, right? It probably would have worked for the audience that they were trying to gain. But all you gained in this case was a bunch of people who hated it because they're expecting, you have actual characters, and none of the characters fit. Okay,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things you could have done with the Daphne character. Okay, and I don't, like I said, I don't have a problem with making a redheaded freaking Chinese person, right?
No.
Redheaded Oriental. That's fine. Or and a redheaded Oriental drug dealer. That's fine, as long as you
Mhm.
let people know ahead of time that this is intended as an adult parody. You could throw in all the tropes that you wanted to, and everyone would have loved it because it
That's
would have
fair.
been meant as a parody. This didn't come across as being meant as a parody. Does that make sense to you? So the
Came
expectations
across
were
as
different.
crap. Let's be honest. Like you said, 50% of the Rotten Tomato people, and they were the ones that are paid to give good reviews. 9% by the rest of us. I mean, that kind of gives a clue now, doesn't it?
Yeah. like I said,
It's actually gone.
it could have been good, but it isn't because of this wasn't something being reimagined. This is I'm going to stick it to you, right? By taking characters that you had nostalgia over and trashing them right in front of you, right? Not laughing with you. I'm going to laugh at you. You know what? When you get laughed at, people don't like being laughed at, right? If you're an author out there and you're laughing at the people who are doing the books, not laughing with them, not making jokes from an overall joke perspective, but intentionally going out there to be mean and malicious towards people, they tend to get defensive. Not that I
You
would know
don't
anything
like it,
about that.
don't watch. Okay.
Not that I would know anything about that, right, Jensen?
No, not you, no.
All right. Let's go on to a little more serious story. Official at a Virginia school warned a 6-year-old boy had a gun hours before he shot a teacher. We have problems. Okay. At least one official at a Virginia school where a 6-year-old boy shot his teacher last week was tipped off the child had brought a 9mm to the class. All right. But did not find the weapon and take it away, said the Newport News school superintendent revealed. The school superintendent, George Parker, admitted to parents during an online town hall Thursday night an unarmed or unnamed staff member at the Richneck Elementary School had been told that the first grader had a gun in his possession. At least one administrator was notified of a possible weapon in the timeline that we're reviewing and was aware that the student there had was a that there was a potential that there was a weapon on the campus. You're going to tell me that you knew that this kid had a gun on him and you didn't take this kid over to the principal's office and call in his parents and ask him what the hell is going on.
Okay. As a Brit, I'm going to make comments that will upset the Americans. I thought everyone had the right for a gun. I believe that's your Second Amendment, isn't it?
Every adult has a right to a gun. Not
Does
every
it?
6-year-old.
No. Does it state that adults, or does it state that everybody? Yeah, I'm going to catch you on
The
this.
right to the Second Amendment shall not be infringed. All right.
There you
However,
go.
just like the right to vote is left
Mhm.
up to 18-year-olds and above, and that there are limits to these things. Has always the idea that there's not limits to guns in this country has always been a misnomer. Okay, has always been a misnomer. All right, and what's more is just because he even if you go back to the idea that well he has a right to a gun, that doesn't mean that the school has to say well we want guns in our area. Okay, you can say
We
this is a no gun zone. And they
yeah,
could have easily grabbed this kid and said, okay, let's be perfectly frank here. This is a problem with teachers, and this is a problem with adults today. And I'm going to give you an example of something I did to my own kid. Okay. One of our neighbors came to us one time and told us that my son, this was very, very young, my older son, right, was over at their house. They were playing, then he accidentally broke a shot glass. All right. That they had souvenirs, right? They were collecting shot glass, and my son had broken one. Right? Now, I didn't hear about this directly from them. I heard about it from my wife, who then told me that the neighbors came up and told her this, right? And my wife and I said, okay, well, what did you do? So, well, I asked him if he did this, right? And he told me no. So I think they're just making this up. I said, why in the hell would the neighbors make up this story? I said, you think this story's made up? My wife said yes. I said, watch this. So I walked over to my son. I said, why the hell did you break that shot glass? What the hell was wrong with you? And he started crying. I'm sorry, I was doing this, and I just did this, and it was, confessed it all, right? And then I stared at my wife. which caused a fight later on. But
Oh, of course.
all right,
Of course it does. Mm-hmm.
right. But this is the issue,
Yeah.
and I admonished my wife. I said, take a look at the context. Why
Yeah.
would the neighbors think about saying something like this if it wasn't true? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is it possible that it's not that way? No, but the likelihood of him breaking it is far more likely, right?
Yes. Without question.
Okay, and then because he lied, he got punished even more. But that's a separate issue. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. This is where we're at today. Now, you had a kid, a six-year-old kid, right? I'd have pulled that kid. If the principal had any freaking common sense, he'd have brought that 66-year-old into the thing and said, "What the hell is wrong with you bringing this gun to school?" Right? The kid would have confessed right then and there.
Yeah.
Right? He would have told you where it was, everything else about it. The fact that they let this kid wander around school for hours, and then the result was he shot his teacher because he probably laid into him for not doing homework or whatever it was, right? From the stories that I've read about this kid, the 6-year-old, intentionally shot her. Okay, he wanted to shoot her, and he did.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it. Makes you wonder what she actually had done prior to this to actually bug the kid that much. That might be something that's worth looking into.
That's a possibility, or it could be just the dynamics of their family life. There's a lot of reasons that could have happened like this. But the fact is that you knew that this kid had a gun and you did not take the appropriate action to fix this issue, is what gets me. Okay, right there, this woman's family, right, has grounds to sue this school, in my opinion, because the
Yeah,
school did not act appropriately.
I agree.
I mean, it's one thing to sit up there and go, okay, Johnny ate a Pop Tart in the shape of a gun and went pew pew, right? Playing cowboys and Indians. That's one thing. It's another thing when somebody says, no, I saw it with a gun. At which point you also got to say, okay, you had another staff person see him with a gun. How come that staff person didn't sit up there and calmly walk up and then snatch that gun out of the kid's hands to find out what was going on with this? Just putting it out there,
No, I agree.
right? Just putting it out there. But then again, we got principals like this. The Bronx principal, Brett Schneider, who preaches love and respect, squares off against students. A woke high school principal who preaches love and respect and creative responses, all right, to conflict was caught on video shoving a student outside his Bronx collaborative high school and putting his dukes up to brawl. Brett Snyder is seen on the video posted to social media on October 24th fracas outside the Bedford Park School, pushing the teen and then raising his fists in a fighting stance. All right, a school safety agent was standing nearby. This is a safety
Wow.
agent, a school bodyguard.
Yeah.
A
I agree
six-year-old
with
should not be
Althea.
hard to disarm. You're correct.
Yeah. No.
All right, but
No.
we're in this. So the
Yeah.
New York Police Department confirmed that the school's safety agents called 911 right, about a fight that day and said no arrests were made. Students told the Post that the incident followed a fight a day or two earlier between a boy and a girl that resulted in the girl getting milk dumped on her. They said a relative of the girl came to the school to confront the boy and sucker punched him. And then the principal squared up. One student said he looked like he was a boxer. I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. Other students said that it seemed like Schneider, was trying to defend the adult who hit the teen. That's
Wow.
a grown man. So a grown man, are you helping another grown man fight a kid? One gobsmacked senior said. All right. Parents were also stunned. You're talking about the principal, the leader of the school, a grown man who's supposed to be trained in de-escalating situations. There's your problem. It's not about de-escalation. It's about order. All right? Because this whole thing about conflict resolution only works, all right, on people who don't want conflict. Jensen, are you a person who doesn't want conflict?
Do you want me to answer that? Because I'm the one who truly believes in mass genocide of all humanity. So technically, yeah, I do actually want there to be no conflict whatsoever. After all, humans can't fight if they're all dead. See, I want peace.
Do you see the problem, right, folks? Do you see where this could go horribly wrong? There are
I bet
plenty
there's
of
more people that
students,
agree with me.
especially high school boys, all right, who are feeling oats. Okay? Now, I was a normal sized to smaller sized teen. Okay? I was not physically endowed with the Adonis muscles and everything else, right?
Unlike
I
me.
was not
Yeah.
the prototypical football player, high school football player. For people who don't understand what I'm trying to say here, it's this. There are kids out there, right? And I call them kids because they're young adults, all right? Who when they turn 15, okay, have the body of 45-year-old weightlifters. Okay? That look like they are ripped and they're 6'3" and they look like they could chew the signs off roads. Okay? They are big, they are massive. I had a friend of mine, it was one of them. Okay? He was 6'3" as a 14-year-old. He was lifting up and holding while he could put them on wheel weights for tractors, which are about 100 to 150 pounds, and starting the bolts, all right, all on his own without any help lifting these things. And he's a nice guy who really doesn't like violence, all right, which is when the football coach saw him, he was like, "Oh, you got to play football." I don't want to play football, coach. I'm telling you, if he had the right mentality, he'd have been an NFL player. If he had the right mentality, right? Because he had all the size, all right, and all the physical attributes of these guys. Just had no intention of ever playing sports. He hated sports. Hated sports and was able to lift 100 and 150 wheel weights with one arm while he could start a bolt with another one. What does that tell you? This is somebody who wasn't a lifter. He wasn't trained to do any of this stuff. Okay? Corn-fed farm boy, right? If they could have convinced him to be a football player, he'd have massacred people. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Because all it takes is somebody like that with that kind of a build with my kind of mentality. Oh, they'd erect it. But Jim wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Right. Thank God. Right. Because as a friend of Jim's, if he was like me and that same thing, I'd probably be in jail today. With a friend like that to help out, oh my God.
Yeah.
School would have been something else. Right? But he wasn't like that. Right?
Yeah.
He was a calm, very calm, total opposite kind of personality. Did not, was very patient, shy to a fault kind of a guy.
Yeah.
But some of these kids, when they say you're a grown adult, yeah, there are differences in a grown adult to a point, right? But I'm just trying to point out that some of these kids that they're talking about, you don't know how big these kids are, right? And I can't see someone pouring, especially a male, pouring a drink onto a girl.
Oh, oh no.
Okay, so I don't know what's happening here, right? But I will say that these people with this attitude of conflict resolution, there are people out there, people like me, that conflict resolution doesn't work. Okay, because they're not thinking to resolve the conflict. They're looking, oh, you don't want the conflict? Good. You're scared of conflict. I can create more. Look how much more I can get away with. All right. And I was the least dangerous because the other caveat to that is good. I can sit up there and look what I can get away with. I can use you. Okay. I can use this situation to manipulate you. There are people like that too.
I don't know
Right.
what you're talking about. I've never been considered in such a thing. I
Notice
honestly
the difference
you lost
between
me.
Jensen and me.
Oh yes.
Okay, the difference between Jensen and me are here's Jensen. How can I use this to my advantage? I'm sitting there going, I'm your Huckleberry. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to be the atypical angry young man. Now I've become manipulative as all hell, man. So,
but
you
but
know,
there's people that are naturally manipulative too, right? That's why this
true.
whole idea that they come up with these stupid, fruitcactic kind of things, right?
Hmm.
Conflict resolution. Conflict doesn't resolution doesn't work with people who don't care.
Yeah,
Okay, and there
agree.
are plenty of people who do not care what you have to say. You are nothing to them. You are not even naval lint. Okay, understand this. If you are
I
nothing
try
but
not to
naval lint
agree.
to them, they don't care. And part of the problem with this is a problem that I have with schools today. These
Hmm.
schools, all these urban schools, right, are too large.
Yes.
And what I mean, and I understand the consolidation focus of it and so forth, but there's a way to handle this in a different manner. The way to do it is to sit up there and go, okay, you're in the same building, but you're all different units. You're all different high schools. And if you approached it that way, you could still have the same buildings and everything else, but the schools themselves would be different. Does that make sense?
Yes. Oh yes.
When a school has more than 1,000 students in it, no, I'm sorry, but it's too big. It's too large. You can get away with
Dude.
that. To be honest, you can get away with that in a society very much like yours in comparison to ours. To be honest. Anyway, what were you
Yeah.
gonna say?
I had between 30 and 40 kids in a class.
Yeah.
Does that give you a subtle clue of how bad it was?
As long as it's the same 30 or 40 kids, if that's who you stayed with for the entire year, it wouldn't have been a
Oh
problem.
no. Oh no, no, no.
No, it was all different ones every single class, wasn't it?
Oh yes.
You may know one or two people from class to class, but that's it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's where the problem is. That's what I mean by that. You can have, believe it or not, you can have a classroom of kids where the size of the kids is 30 kids. If it's the same 30 kids going through as a unit, as a group. This is why the military does it that way, right? You had a platoon. The platoon is what, 50 people, between
Yeah.
30 to 50 people, depending on the size of it, right? And but it's the same. It's the same
Yeah.
group of people. Okay, you quickly learn who each other are.
Yes.
Okay, and if you're forced to be together, well, I'm not gonna go into that's another issue. All right, I'm not gonna go into some of the worst. But if you did that, these
Hmm.
schools would function far better than they do. Okay, the person
So
who should be moving from classroom to classroom, to be honest, should not be the students. Should be the
should
friggin'
be a
teacher.
teacher. Yeah. So just for clarification purposes, no man, what you're saying is all schools should be military academies. This is what you're telling us, yeah?
No, it doesn't have to be a military academy. Okay,
Yeah.
not saying that a more military style would be beneficial in these schools, because I think it would be. All right, but
Yeah.
they don't have to be regimented like the military necessarily. Okay,
Yeah.
but they should be regimented differently. When you go to class, when you start your first day in class, That first day of class, when you go to quote unquote your homeroom, your first classroom that you have, the students in there, even if it's 35 to 40 kids, should be in a high school environment, right? Those should be the same 30 or 40 high school students you see for the rest of your time. That they
Yeah.
should be the same 40 you see, okay, throughout the rest of the year. Now, that granted, one or two are going to leave, other one or two are going to come in, right? We understand that, right? But if you keep them as a core like that, they become a unit. They become a little mini, not a unit, but a little mini society in and of itself, right? Where they can explore the roles of becoming adults, right, with people you know
Yeah.
over time, and the next year, right, when you go from freshman to sophomore, that same 40 should be the same 40 if possible. Okay?
You bloody Americans and your weird ass names. We have first and second years. Do you actually have specific names for each type? You're weird.
Well, we have in high school you have 4 years, right? Your first
Yeah.
year you're a freshman, second year you're a sophomore, third year you're a
Yeah.
junior, and the last year, your final year, you're a senior.
Yeah, you guys, like I said, you guys put weird ass names to your years. We just went first, second, third, fourth, fifth. That was it. Okay? Bloody Americans.
Technically, freshman is your ninth year of school.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh no, they changed it so it was, but we still just base it by number. We don't do the interesting names that you guys do. I'm being polite as I can.
What do you say? It's interesting names.
Well, I understand what a freshman and a sophomore is. I didn't know that you actually call them juniors, and I did know that the makes sense that you call them juniors. To put it bluntly, why
That's a
bother
hint, by
with
the
the
way.
name?
Go ahead.
It is a subtle clue, yeah. But why give them these names? Why not just call it by the year? So, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or 9, 10, 11, 12, etc. Why don't you just go with the simple stuff? I mean, over here, the way it's done nowadays is very much a case of you literally say the age of the kid as the year.
Um, I don't know. It's way we've always done things. Just deal with it that way. All right, back to what the hell was that? Well, good question. Hi, B. Cocktail time. B has now joined the chat.
Yeah,
Cocktail time. Well, for cocktail time, let's start with Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg joins anti-coal activists at protest in German village.
before you
Climate
do Nomad,
goblin Greta
Nomad,
Thunberg and I'm sorry, what?
Nomad. She's grey. Do you want to? I mean, I know this is me defending B here, but I'm doing my level best. All right, give me a break. She should be blue like the rest of us. What's going on? She doesn't get special treatment. Unless you're saying she's as special as Shirati. Are you suggesting that B is Shirati? Oh,
Well,
you're
I'm
in
not
trouble
saying
now.
that B is Sherardi, and as you can see, B is no longer gray. Okay.
Good. No, you didn't hear the blender, B. You probably heard the coffee pot. I mean, you know what this guy's like. He doesn't have
Oh
a
no
blood
no no!
supply. He has a coffee supply.
What they heard was the chainsaw,
Aha.
right?
I
Which
like
is the environmentalist part of the show starts off with a chainsaw. Okay, there. Is that better?
Yes.
Right. Back to the climate goblin.
Yeah.
Climate goblin. All right, Greta Thunberg and thousands of demonstrators marched in a large-scale protest in Germany on Saturday against the demolition of a of a village to make way for an open-cast coal mine extension. Crowds of activists marched on the hamlet of Lutzeroth. Lutzeroth. I can't say it
Yeah.
with the phlegm necessary. All right, in Western Germany, waving banners and chanting and accompanied by a brass band, but there was also some violent clashes with police. Lustorf has been deserted for some time by the original inhabitants. All right, it is set to disappear to make way. In other words, they bought out all these people. Okay, it's to make way for an extension of an adjacent open cast coal mine, one of the largest in Europe, operated by energy firm RWE. AFP saw protesters arriving in buses holding banners with slogans including "Stop Coal" and "Lustroth Lives." Thunberg marched at the front of the procession as demonstrators converged on the village, showing support for the activists occupying it in protest over the coal mine extension. All right, this is what happens when you give the troll and goblin a cave to hide in. Just putting it out there. Okay?
I don't know. Mm-hmm.
All right. So the climate goblin is back protesting coal, which is necessary because you turned off green energy nuclear power in Germany.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Not saying that the nuclear power plants in Germany didn't need to be turned off. Okay, this is something that people don't realize. These power plants only should be operating for a certain number of years, and then they need to be deactivated and new ones put in. Okay, I realize that's an expensive process. Okay, but it's a safe way of dealing with this kind of stuff, right? You don't want a plant that's been operating for 30 friggin' years. Why? Because technology has moved on. Even the spare parts for the simplest thing like pumps and things like that probably aren't being made anymore. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. I would point out one thing, okay? Are we really sure we want to discuss Germany having access to nuclear power? I mean, it's not like they ever done anything bad involving,
That
destroying
genie's
things
out of the
maybe about 100
bottle.
years ago, give or take. So
That genie's out of the bottle a long time ago.
that's,
That's
oh, no, I know.
all right. Meanwhile, for more of the climate goblins activities, look at this
Mm,
story. Philly's only snowless winter was 50
mm,
years ago. No flakes are in sight anytime soon. Okay, so 50 years ago, we weren't dealing with global warming, right?
mhm.
Am I missing something? In fact, in the 1970s, because 50 years ago would have been 73, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. 50 years ago was 1973. 1973, they're all crying that the world was going through an ice age. These same climate activist groups, these same climate scientists, all these supposed climate scientists were saying that pollution was blocking so much solar radiation that it was going to cause an ice age on the planet.
I just want to point out, Oz has come up with a suggestion. Germany can always burn citizens for fuel, just like the good old days. He's not wrong.
Oh,
He's not wrong.
don't feed Jensen's delusions, please. All right.
To be honest, if Germany wants to set fire to anything, it should just set fire to France. Then again, I actually think everyone should set fire to France.
They've done that there several times. Anyway, all right. By the time the weekend is over, the snow total in the California's Mammoth Mountain might reach 400 inches of this winter. The product of relentless procession of an atmospheric river storms swamping and whitening the West. We're all looking forward to a long break, said Tyler Sales with the National Weather Service office in Reno, Nevada, which is responsible for forecasts for the Sierras. Maybe they should come to Philly. That Mammoth Mountain total would be on the order of about 20 winters worth of Philadelphia International Airport, which still awaits its first measurable snow of the season. And all indications are that wait is continuing. It's going to continue indefinitely. So what?
Well, say thank you then.
All
Seriously,
right,
say thank you. This is a good thing.
all right. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And as far as California goes, California is reeling as rivers in the sky morph from a blessing to a curse. Coastal residents the world over could live without hurricanes and typhoons. Really? Really? Coastal residents can live without water world over. Really? Am I missing something here, Jensen, or do I think that these people are stupid?
Let's just go with they're stupid. You know it, and I know it. They're just basically coming up with really insane things.
New Yorkers could get to work and live quite nicely without nor'easters. Really? All right. But it's hard to imagine life continuing in California without atmospheric rivers. There's a new one now. A series of these powerful Pacific storms have battered the Golden State since December, killing at least 19 people, all right, and causing about $34 billion in losses and damages. And more rain from another atmospheric river is forecast over the coming days. But as destructive as they are, the meteorological forces at play are essential to the water cycle that fills the state's reservoirs and aquifers and soaks farmlands. So you can't live without them now, can you? Who writes this stupid shit?
Californians. Next question.
Right? Hey, Brian, take some logic classes, okay?
Yeah.
Take some classes in logic for Bloomberg News. Brian K. Sullivan. Hey, Brian. Take some classes in this. Now, it wasn't too long ago that you guys are all in California were all screaming about drought. You're no longer screaming about drought now, are you?
And apparently he's in the East Coast, so probably New York area. Again, stupid. I mean, no offense to the New Yorkers, but New York City, dumb as all hell.
Okay, the ideas, the problem that I have with these climatologists and this whole global warming scare, okay, and it's a global warming scare.
Yeah.
Okay, and I say it's a scare because it's stupid to assume that all these quote unquote dire predictions. Let's assume, all right, the absolute worst that they're talking about in the next 4 years or 100 years. In the next 100 years, if the absolute worst comes true, they're talking a 4-degree rise Celsius.
Ooh.
4 degrees Celsius rise. Okay. So here in Arizona, a 4 degrees Celsius rise sucks. Not going to deny it. We live in a desert. It's going to be hot as all F. Okay?
Yeah.
In Greenland, they're going to be like, shorts! Finally!
Yep.
Okay? The Canadians are going to be like, what, we can go outside? Okay?
Let's be fair. The Canadians are going to look up, see that big fireball in the sky and scream, trying to work out what it is.
Possibly.
Okay?
Right? Yes, the climate has always changed. The Earth has been up to 15 or 20 degrees hotter, right, Celsius-wise, right? According to certain people in the geological record. I'm not a geological scientist, so I'm not going to claim that it was. All right, but according to several people in the geological record, they said the Earth has been, like I said, 10 to 15 degrees Celsius hotter than it is today. It's not going to end life on the planet. And if it's going to take 100 years to rise like that, you know what people do? People are really good about this. I don't know if you noticed this, right? Especially in the modern age, when places become uncomfortable, you know what people do? They leave. They go to more comfortable regions. Ever notice that?
Oh, no, I know.
Right? Now there's
And I agree.
lot of things
I agree with what Thea's just said. The British will complain. Of course we will, but then again, the British will complain if it get hotter, colder, and if it stays the same. Why? Because the British are really, really good at complaining.
The planet, and you guys were in charge of the planet. You were busy bitching. Okay, so I don't want to hear it.
It's true though. I mean, we were. No, you are 100% accurate with that. It's just a natural ability we have. We can do
Okay.
2 things really, really well. 1, complain. 2, stand in queues. And technically you can add 3, which is complain about standing in queues.
I've
That is
never
just
understood
something the
why you
British
guys
can
can
do.
stand in queues without starting fights.
Because we bitch and let off steam that way.
Has it ever occurred to you that's one of the reasons you don't have a lot of queues in America? Because Americans, if they're standing in the queue too long, tend to get a little surly.
So do we, but we just don't do anything about it. You guys, well, as shown, you pull guns and start shooting.
We don't pull guns at that point, but when we rush into the store and start fighting over things, we may pull a gun at that point. That's true.
Cough,
But
cough,
generally
Black
not while
Friday.
you're in the
Cough,
line.
cough. That's all I'm saying.
Right, I'm just pointing out, Americans and queues are not friends.
No.
Queues are something to be avoided, not tolerated. Okay. First thing that's going to happen when you start a queue forming up, right? This is true of grocery stores as well. You get a grocery store line that's too long. Within 5 minutes, if they haven't started opening up other registers and haven't called in people to start getting people through, there are people bitching at the guys when they finally get there. How come you haven't called somebody else to help out here?
If we do that, the difference is we don't want to open up others because that way we lose our opportunity to bitch and queue.
Just pointing these things out. From the New York Post. Inside the sky-high world of drug smuggling flight attendants. Does this surprise you, Jensen?
No.
You missed your opportunity. You should have went shocked. I'm shocked that flight attendants would sit there and deal in drugs.
Why, dude,
I mean,
why
you
bother,
have Daphne right
honestly?
here in this little picture. That's a
Not
joke,
wrong,
folks.
though.
Teresa White, right, 41, was meant to fly to Boston. Instead, she landed in police custody. Last October, White was a Mesa Airlines flight attendant traveling from Dallas to San Diego. Between flights, she exited the Southern California airport and returned later that day to go from San Diego to Boston. As the as is the habit of flight attendants, according to her plea agreement, White, a Dallas resident, attempted to utilize the known crew member queue, a TSA security line that lets airline employees sail through with reduced screening. You have to have a KCM card. You scan the card, show your company ID and driver's license, and walk right through, said the former Mesa Airlines pilot, or flight attendant. But sometimes you get a random, and that's when you're randomly chosen to go through airport security that everyone else has to go through. Unfortunately for White, this was the day she was selected.
Yeah.
Now she is awaiting sentencing after pleading guilty to one count of possession with the intent to distribute fentanyl, which is killing people across the country, including George Floyd. Regardless of what people want to say, having a lethal dose of fentanyl in your system is why you die, not having a frickin' police officer kneeling on the back of your neck. All right? When you're obviously not choking and having difficulty breathing before you even lay on the ground. Not saying that the police leaning on your neck isn't helping matters, okay? I'm not saying that didn't aggravate the situation, because it probably did aggravate it to some degree, at any rate, right? White
Yeah.
is just the latest flight attendant to use what the United States Attorney's Office in Southern District of California called privileges as a flight attendant as a tool for smuggling drugs. No shit! Really? Really? Why would you expect anything else?
Well, like it says in the next thing, they literally made a film about this.
Right, Quentin Tarantino, all right, made a movie called with the character Jackie Brown. A crooked flight attendants find frequent travel plus lack security a tempting combination. Paid off by drug dealers, some of them turn their privilege into a side hustle, acting as convenient mules to move contraband around the United States. It stands to reason that this smuggling by flight attendants is commonly done," said attorney Dennis Ring, who who represented recently convicted flight attendant Marsha Gay Reynolds. All right, and this is for those who let me put this up here. This is Marsha J. Reynolds. She's a former beauty queen. Right, this is a pretty woman. This woman is very, very pretty. I don't care for her little. These earrings are. I've never liked. I've never liked. I don't like those freaking bangled earrings. Like basically just they look like freaking harnesses for your what do you call those things on horses? Reins. They look like harnesses
Yeah.
on reins. Right?
I would like it noted, YouTube. He said that, not me. I'm not saying I didn't think
That's
it,
what
but
all
he said.
these big earrings look like. It has nothing to do
I
with
agree.
that. I've always complained about my wife loves those kind of earrings, by the way, right? And I refuse to give them to her, right? And I've told her why, right? And she glares at me. We don't know
why. You want to talk about earrings and piercings and things like that? I constantly get bitched at by pointing out that people that get their nose and lips pierced, that's a slave mark. Literally, that is what people used to do to slaves to tow them along by their nose. And people are now wearing this as a fashion statement.
I know. I understand that. Well, the problem that I have with lip piercings and nose piercings is this. First of all, a nose piercing makes me always wonder what happens when they get a cold and they gotta blow their nose. All right, I'm sorry, but I just picture this stream of snot like silly streams screaming out of their nose when they sneeze. Okay.
I like that.
I'm sorry, but that's what comes to mind, right? I mean, just the grossness of even thinking about that, right? Snot coming out, spraying out like that stuff, right? The other thing is if you put a ball on your nose, okay, everyone's going to look at your nose. Do you want people to just look at your nose? It's like
apparently,
when somebody has a large schnoz on them, you know, the Cyrano de Bergerac kind of nose, right?
Yeah.
Everybody stares at it. You can't help but stare at it. Okay?
No.
If you put a ball on your nose, it's like, look, a clown nose. You're looking at the nose. You're looking at the ball. It's saying, look at my nose. If you think that's your most attractive feature,
you need help. Yeah.
Okay? Just tell him. And for his lip piercing, I'm sorry. Every time I see a lip piercing, you know what I think of?
Go on.
Fish got away from the basket.
Okay. I actually agree with you there.
It looks like you just hooked a fish. All right, you brought a fish in. You got caught by the alien.
You know what? I like and agree with that. Yeah.
All right. Don't do that, folks. If you want to mutilate your body that way, go ahead. But it's not enhancing. What are you trying to enhance about yourself when you do that? All right. See, earrings basically cause creates a kind of a halo effect around the face. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Unless they're too large, they look like reins. Right?
Yeah, horsey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Tell me when you look at those, you don't start thinking rawhide. Come on, admit it. You do, don't you? Yeah, you do. I can hear the laughter.
Right. But you understand what I'm saying.
Oh, I do completely.
What is it? I've never understood why people get certain tattoos and certain things, like a facial tattoo. Are you a Yakuza?
No. You can stop right there, sir. The Yakuza do not do tattoos on their hands or their face or their feet because that is showing their identity. The whole point of their tattoos, as you well know as a manga aficionado, is it tells their story. They do not actually reveal that stuff. It's idiots that get tattoos on their face, not Yakuza.
That's I know that's true, right? But
Okay.
these idiots
Sorry
getting
to.
tattoos on their face may not know that.
Yeah. Oh, no. I totally agree. I'm just pointing out.
Okay.
You can say what you like about the Yakuza, and trust me, I do. But they know what they're doing with tattoos. Okay, it just is what it
I
is.
don't disagree with it, but the Yakuza tattoos are also a mark of where you're at within the Yakuza internal society. Right? I
Yes.
understand all that. Okay. I've read a lot of and listened to a lot of stories and stuff about that from their perspective, right? And there's
Yeah.
unfortunately when you get into that kind of mentality, you end up appreciating the world a little bit more, which is still not some they're they're an antisocial social collective.
You know that they're actually considered more important than the police in several prefectures, don't you?
In some areas, I'm sure that they are, but then again, that's a different societal viewpoint. Okay?
True.
That's
True.
not a Western society, and it's not a Western viewpoint. I mean, we understand it from our own perspective, but we're looking at an outsider's perspective, looking in, not the same way. All right,
Fair.
and I've read a number of different accounts of people that were Yakuzas before, and they talk about the changes that have happened within the Yakuza community itself. Right.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and so there's been because societies change. All
Yes.
societies change. Now Japanese society is changing at a faster rate than it ever has, but because that's just the way the world is working right now. Okay, but at the same time, Japanese society does not change at the same rate that the American society is changing, because American society is changing so rapidly it's fracturing. Because you got different areas changing at different rates throughout the country right now, and that's what's causing a lot of the fractures, right? That you're seeing. Most people don't recognize that.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's one of the reasons. But speaking of Japan, Japan mulls lifting anti-COVID recommendation to wear masks indoors. The Japanese government is considering no longer asking the public to wear masks indoors in principle unless they have symptoms. Why are you going out indoors if you have symptoms?
Yeah.
Okay? Nothing against you. If you're sick, don't go outside and mingle with people. Okay? Hey, of all the things, that should have been the one thing that was constantly stressed. If you feel sick, don't go outside and spread it to somebody else.
Yes.
Okay? How tough is that? A government source said Saturday, possibly changing the public's daily anti coronavirus practice drastically. The policy change has been floated as the government discusses downgrading COVID 19's legal status to the same level as seasonal influenza, and as Sunday marks 3 years since Japan detected its first coronavirus infection. In its anti coronavirus measures revised last May, the government said that, in principle, masks do not need to be worn outdoors as long as people are not conversing. Okay? But it said
Question.
that people are still advised to wear masks when indoors, except in cases where social distancing of 2 meters or more is secured and where there is virtually no conversation.
Is that a
Go
British
ahead.
one? Yeah. By the way, the question is, okay, are we supposed to actually turn around to Japan and go, "Happy Infection Day to you," or do we not do that? Is that yeah, okay? That's a bit much. All
I
right,
don't
cool.
think
Okay.
singing Happy Infection Day in the Japanese.
They made it very clear it's 3 years since they detect their first corona infection. So I think it's reasonable to say Happy Infection Day to them. What's wrong with this?
Jensen, you never stop, do you? Your whole global "I wish humanity would die off" processes.
I will point out I had a friend who used to phone up the French embassy every single year and say Happy Bastille Day to them
Okay. Why?
because it
Bastille Day
bugged
is
the
their
living.
Independence Day, right?
Yeah, but he was actually doing it as the royalist, not as the Republican. Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, what does that? I think the French are just kind of like, okay, whatever.
No, actually, apparently the French embassy over here used to get really quite pissed about it. It's quite
Oh,
funny.
really?
Yeah. How dare this British person speak to us? Yeah.
Well, isn't that the French attitude toward anybody when you're speaking to them at any point in time, including when
This
they're
is a
waiters
fair
at a
point.
restaurant?
This is actually a fair point. Personally, I think they were just scared in case we invaded and they wanted to surrender quickly.
No, but as far as the Japanese go in these the cloth masks don't stop viral infections. Period. Okay, they don't.
No, no, I agree.
I mean, that's been proven. That's what's been stated by several people, several doctors, several virologists. They say that the cloth masks don't work. Well, then don't have them. Unless you're going to get the N95 masks, the ones that sit there and have the little micron filters and everything. These things aren't going to work. And I don't know if anybody knows this or not, but you and I do, because we've gone through this stuff. In order to seal a mask to your face, having that mask sealed to your face for 8 hours at a time, even 8 hours at a time, trust me, it sucks. If you had to do that
Oh,
every
yeah.
day for a week, you're hating life.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You can do it if you want. If you're terrified of COVID, all right, I understand it. If you don't want to
Plus,
sit there and catch the disease.
you
But
should point out that they also have to shave completely because they can't have any sort of facial hair if they're actually having sealed mask.
that's true too. That is
Mm-hmm.
another thing. You can't go with your little goatee on, right? Or your little soul patch that you have.
Oh,
Well, soul patch
don't.
probably could get away with, but
No,
it's
no, no. A
you gotta
person with a soul
constantly
patch needs to
shave
be
in order to
shot.
do that. What was
Yeah.
that?
A person with a soul patch just needs to be shot, just generally. Okay. It's for the greater good of humanity. It really is.
Jensen, you just said the greater good of humanity was roasting people. I'm not sure you really
I,
understand what that term means.
it's a hey, look, I'm doing it in stages. If I kill off the people with soul patches, I then get all the people, shave them, and give them soul patches, then kill them. See, it's working. And just in case you're thinking, aha, but what you can do about the women? Well, I got all that hair I shaved off the guys. I'm just super quick to their face, then shoot them. I've got a plan for all of this.
Jensen, this isn't a target
What
of opportunity necessarily.
says you?
All right, I know you're always looking for the silver lining in things, but you're not creating a silver lining by painting things, okay?
There is
Painting
nothing wrong
clouds
with
doesn't work.
blood-soaked silver lining. What is wrong with the blood-soaked silver lining? Come on.
It's red, not silver.
Mm-hmm.
There's your reason.
Can't argue that.
From The Guardian.
Mm-hmm.
Wings like cracked eggshells. Richard Branson faces turbulence over safety of space flights. Investors are pursuing legal action against Virgin Galactic, claiming that its carrier aircraft and space vehicle were not designed for regular space travel. In a desert basin in New Mexico, Richard Branson hopes history will be made later this year with the launch of Virgin Galactic's first commercial flights to the edge of space, with tickets costing about $450,000 each. Right, it is an ambitious schedule to launch the world's first commercial space liner at Spaceport America, even though it has already more than a decade late. Even though it's more than a decade late, right? But getting to liftoff will be the greatest challenge of Branson's career. The company already faces criticism over the safety and effectiveness of its operation in numerous of lawsuits in the United States. Branson initially hoped that he would send 50,000 astronauts into space by 2019, but the project has been beset by mishaps, delays, and disaster. A pilot was killed and others suffered serious injuries when Virgin Galactic's first Spaceship Two shuttle, the VSS Enterprise, crashed in the California desert in October of 2014. The company's active vehicles, the carrier aircraft VMS Eve and VMS Unity, the second Spaceship Two, have not flown since Branson's trip to the edge of space in July of 2021, where the share price has fallen more than $55 at its peak to around $5. Virgin Galactic was founded in 2004. Was initially hoped to be paying astronauts, would be flying missions by 2007. The launch date of the commercial services has been pushed back ever since. The company started trading on the New York Stock Exchange in October of 2019. It said at the time that it anticipated launching its commercial service in 2020 to mark Branson's 70th birthday. Some investors are now pushing legal action against Virgin Galactic after the string of delays, claiming that the alleged defects in the craft were not properly disclosed. They allege that Eve and Unity were prototypes and were not designed for regular space travel, and say that their claims are supported by internal corporate documents. Okay, Jensen.
Yeah.
He's Branson is one of yours. What do you think
Yeah.
about all this?
I think that his concept was perfectly reasonable. Unfortunately, executing it was not, quite simply. I mean, I don't want. Look, I'm not doing this to annoy the Americans here, but get the hint after the Challenger disaster, okay? Things need adjusting. The whole concept of, at the end of the day, overexcited shuttlecraft, because that's basically all they are, whether they're carrying people or carrying objects, they're basically shuttlecraft. They need to work out what they're doing. If the materials are actually cracking and shattering as they suggested, there's one easy suggestion: alter the materials so they don't do this. Otherwise, well, let's get blunt. Need another 7 astronauts will come around again. Just saying, okay?
Well, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
what they're basically doing is considerably different than what everyone else is. Right? This is something that people
Yeah.
don't know about. If I'm not mistaken, his intent, his his craft does not take off on a rocket. Correct? It takes off with regular planes, piggybacking on a regular airframe to get it up to altitude, and then it's dropped and it ignites its engines. Correct?
Yeah.
And then it flies up into however high it flies, stays up there for however long it stays, and then comes back down to Earth. Right? I believe
Yeah.
that's the concept. Right? Now,
Sounds right.
knowing how this thing's working, okay, this,
Mm-hmm.
this is just me. Okay, I think it's stupid. Okay, to go up like this and come back down in the same place.
Yes.
If you're gonna do this, have these things fly to London. Okay, launch these things and have them fly to London and land in London like 2.5, 3 hours later. Okay, that would be cool. That would be worth the ride, right? Bring your
Yeah.
luggage. You don't need a lot of luggage, but bring a little bit of luggage. I mean, for good God, it's a $450,000 ticket.
Yeah.
All right, fly it to London or somewhere else, right? So they get a twofer for it, right?
Mhm.
Now, you are correct though. People's expectations of space flight, the people, right? Why did the Challenger disaster happen? Many people don't even understand why the Challenger disaster happened. Right? They know the specifics. Believe it or not, it's kind of the opposite way of things. They know the specifics of why it happened. They know about the O-ring seals failing and everything else. All right, and they know that some of the procedures weren't followed. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But the reality is, the Challenger disaster happened because people had become complacent about spaceflight.
Yeah.
We had been
Not a
launching
shock.
shuttles for close to what, 10 years
Yeah,
before the
pretty much.
Challenger disaster. All right, and we were doing it constantly, never having
Mm-hmm.
any problems. The public were never informed of any real problems with these things. It had
No.
become old hat. Okay, people
Yeah.
had forgotten space flight is inherently dangerous. It's
What are you
inherent.
suggesting that throwing yourself into zero atmosphere in an overexcited tin can that may or may not make it back to Earth in a controlled manner, that's dangerous? I'm shocked. How could you suggest this? I thought it was perfectly safe.
Yeah, it's it's not safe. Well, it's safe in the sense that, can you do it and make it? Yeah. Is it safe
Sometimes.
in the sense that I can get into my car and drive to the grocery store just down the block and come back and pretty much reasonably expect every single time never to be freaking munched by another car? Yeah, no, it's not like that. Okay, space is like a jungle. Okay, I want people to understand this. Space is like a jungle. I can hear people now. No man, what are you referring to? A jungle, for anybody that's ever been there, a jungle has one mission in life: to
Tell you.
kill you. Okay? Everything in a jungle is trying to kill you. Okay?
Yes. And
People
the
have to
cuter
get
it
this.
is, more likely it's trying to kill you. Let's be fair.
All right. The creatures that live in it, they're not your friends. They're not Mowgli. Okay? They're not
Mhm.
Baloo. All right? Most of them are Shere Khan. Okay? For those people who
Yeah, the
understand the
right idea.
reference. A
Oh, yeah.
jungle is always trying to kill you. If you drink the water, it's very likely to have some kind of disease or parasite that is going to try to kill you. There are people who have been killed by parasites that swam up streams of urine into people's uh,
Urinary tract. There you
urinary
go. There's the
cavities.
right name.
Okay?
Yes.
Right? It doesn't matter. These are
Um, got it
in
from Oz.
space.
Yeah.
What? Frogs
From
aren't trying to
Oz,
kill you.
the frogs aren't trying to kill you. They will, but they're not trying to. That's actually a fair statement.
I don't know if I agree with that statement. Okay,
Well,
let's
the
be perfectly
arrowroot
honest
tree
here.
frog is not trying to kill anything. It's just sitting there until some idiot comes along
All
and
right,
either
let's,
A,
let's stop
licks
right
it
there.
or
Let's stop right there. First of
go
all,
on.
you see a frog, a
Yeah.
regular frog,
Yeah.
hopping in the thing, and you're like, a frog. Then you see a
Yes.
multicolored frog that looks cool, right?
And if you're Californian, you walk over and lick it.
Well, that's regardless,
It's true.
right? You're
Come
saying
on.
that they're
It's
not
true.
trying to kill you, but the
Yeah.
cute frogs are always the poisonous ones. Why is it that
This
the
is
cute ones are the poisonous ones?
yes.
All right? No, they're trying to say, "Here, come get me." They are trying to kill you.
Yeah.
They're just trying to use psychological warfare to get to do it, right?
Hypnotoad.
Well, they're not hypnotoads, at least not yet. All right. There are some things like that, but the hypnotoad is not one of them. But no, in space, you got to understand, space is anti-life. Okay?
Oh no. It's anti-human life. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh really? What other life do you see in space?
Aliens.
Where have you seen an alien?
That's how good they are. You don't get to see them until they kidnap you and probe you. See?
I'm sorry, Jensen. Space is anti-life. Okay.
I agree.
Even microbes, if they're trying to survive space, they're trying to survive it. Okay, they're putting the shells around them to try and insulate themselves from space.
True.
Okay, and it takes the most innocuous things to kill you.
Yes.
Okay, a cut on your hand in space can be deadly because it's a cut on your hand means the suit was cut. Okay.
Yeah.
If
From Oz. The space doesn't exist and the Earth is flat. The worst part is there are people that truly believe this, which is fascinating for the dumbness.
Okay, you can't burn things in space if you're cold. Okay?
I would argue that you're merely not being inventive enough.
You're not going to be able to burn things where you're receiving the heat, okay, in space.
I'll accept that. I'll accept that
Okay?
Statement.
And what's more is if you're too hot, there's no,
You
unless you
die.
can get behind something, you're going to burn.
Yeah.
Okay?
But that does deal with the cold problem. I have to admit that.
It still creates an issue. Right?
Yeah, but have you noticed? You're sitting there complaining that you can't produce heat in space, but yet if there's too much heat, you'll die.
You
So
can't
basically,
burn
you're
things
just complaining.
in space. Okay?
Hope you notice, everyone. He is just complaining. Typical old man complaining at clouds.
Right. But space is inherently dangerous. And this is all stemming from an agreement what happens to me when I agree with Jensen. All right. Space is always trying to kill you. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, you're all stuffed now, aren't you?
Yeah. Hey, Batman,
Hey,
you're
mate.
a little bit late. We only have one story left.
Yeah, but we are talking about space, so you get to join.
We are to what?
We're talking about space and killing people. Two good things.
Yeah. Andromeda Ascendant. I just want the computer.
I wonder why.
You want the AI, not the computer.
No, I want the android.
Fair point.
She wasn't really an android. She was just an AI.
No, she was an android.
Just holographic.
No. After I think it was the second or third episode, Harper made an android body for her.
It wasn't the third. It was like this way in. It wasn't the third episode.
No, it wasn't. It was about the second or third one.
Was it? Was
no
it that early?
idea what they're talking about.
It was much later on. For those who haven't watched the movie or the show Andromeda, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, she's actually the reason I hate Michael Shanks.
Why?
Because he married her.
Oh, what a reason to hate him.
Yeah, it is.
She wasn't going to marry you. Let's be honest.
Hey, I can dream. I mean, this Kurt Russell, I hate him because of Goldie Hawn.
Fair point.
Really?
Yeah. I would have done Goldie Hawn 7 Whistles Sunday back in the day.
Oh my god. Goldie Hawn is not someone I would have. The first problem with Goldie Hawn was she opened her mouth.
Actually, the on-screen persona was far removed from what she was like in real life. She's actually a shrewd businesswoman.
I'm not saying she wasn't, all right? But she never shut up, all right? And she doesn't shut up in the civilian world.
I never heard her.
She just doesn't shut up.
Hey, yeah, if you don't watch it, mate, I'm going to drug you, and when you wake up, you'll be lying there and realise that you just had sex with Jane Fonda.
Oh, that's evil. How dare you? What did he ever do that wrong?
Could have been worse. I was going to say Henry Fonda.
It's better than Jane.
Right.
Good old time machine.
I was having sex with a corpse. He went straight to necrophilia.
No, I'm on about time. I'm on about gay time travel here, mate.
Oh give you
Hey,
25 for
I'm
number
okay with either one. I really am. No prejudgment here.
It's just another path to the end of humanity. Is that what you're saying, Justin?
Oh,
Yes,
the end of humanity. Yeah.
it's a lovely idea.
Yep, it is.
Now you're screwed. No matter, there's two of us that want to wipe out humanity.
Well, one's the Batman. You got to explain.
Well, actually, there's three because Ms. Murder's in the chat there.
This is fair. It's actually worse than that. B is in the chat.
Hmm?
Yeah, we actually had B.
Did you?
Yeah.
I hope she behaved herself.
Really?
Really.
Oh, buzz off, dude. Come on.
Oh, you really know how to sting it, you do.
Wait for that one.
I hear it. It's circling in, right? It's powering in out of control.
Mhm.
All right, final
Okay,
story of the day, folks. Final story. Let's get to this. And this is a story about a kitty.
I like kitties.
Yeah.
Dallas Zoo finds missing clouded leopard.
That's not a kitty.
He's a kitty. He's
No,
lovely. and he's
that is a ravenous, blood-hungry beast.
again, this is a good thing.
The Dallas Zoo
Oh.
said its missing clouded leopard was found unharmed on zoo property Friday evening, right? Hours after the animal had been reported missing from her habitat. The Dallas Police Department said it launched an investigation to determine if the leopard's habitat was intentionally damaged, allowing the animal to escape. The zoo said the animal, a female named Nova, that's a cool name for a cloud leopard, actually, right, was being evaluated by its veterinary staff. The zoo closed the public earlier Friday, and police were summoned to the facility to help search for Nova. Zoo said on a Facebook that workers discovered the clouded leopard was missing from its enclosure when they arrived at the facility that morning.
Hold on, the
Code
Clouded
Blue-
Leopard's got its own Facebook page.
Yeah,
A
man.
code blue was issued, meaning a non-dangerous animal was missing from its habitat. Non-dangerous, huh?
Yeah, no, hold it. All right, stop there. All right. They really should not have called it Code Blue because, after all, as well we know, Code Blue means a whole lot more in the medical society than it does in the zoological society. They should have called it something else. Just saying.
I can't disagree with that. Let's bounce a little bit forward here and see if we can get past all of these idiots talking. All right, because I want to see the kitties.
Yeah, kitties.
And it doesn't look like they. Oh, there they finally get to the point where we can.
Mine was being an asshole trying to stop me making a cigarette.
Now notice this guy's in Dallas. Look what he's wearing. See, it's cold there.
Well, it's cold for Dallas.
Exactly. It's
If
cold.
this is the
The rest of us
enclosure-
would be sweating.
If this is the enclosure for the cloud leopard, I think I know how it escaped.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm just pointing out.
That's the enclosure.
All right, no, I'm just pointing out if that is the enclosure, I think I know how it got out.
It walked.
Right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, look at it. Hop on the roof, hop out. There you go. Problem dealt with.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, let's see if we can. I want pictures of the cat. To be honest,
Yeah,
I'm more
it's
interested
all well
in
and
pictures
good.
of the cat.
Yep. Well, you don't realise the cat is hiding so well you can't see it.
They're not going to show pictures of the cat in that stupid thing. What a drag! What a drag!
On.
Because
We like it, dude.
clouded leopards are very pretty animals.
Oh God, yeah.
They're not very large though. That's why they said it was a non-dangerous animal, because they're not something that's going to normally attack a human. They can attack a human. Is it possible that they can kill a human? Yes, it is possible. But an adult should be able to defend itself against the cat. Okay.
Yeah, punch on the nose.
Have you ever seen a really pissed off cat? And I'm on
Yes.
about a house cat.
Oh,
They
yeah.
they can easily leap into the face of a 7 foot tall man, and while they're leaping, everything is moving. Yeah, it basically doesn't just hit and latch on; it shreds.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of know. I kind of know how cats are.
And then you get
Right?
something like a big cat.
It's
Yeah.
darling. It's lovely.
When I
Those
was
those
a when I
those,
was a crumb
those
cruncher,
things.
when I
When
was
you
a
were a
crumb
what?
cruncher, when I was a crumb cruncher, okay,
A child. It's
a
American for
very
child.
young child, right? My older brother and me became jealous because our sister, who was 3 at the time, was given a Siamese cat, and we
They're
were
evil.
jealous of the cat, and we
Mhm.
hated Mr. Cat. Okay, and Mr. Cat
Why?
knew that these two little terrors would, if it ever got a hold of it, would kill it because we were too young to know better, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so when we had the chance, as little monsters that we were, we would try to chase Mr. Cat. Now, when you're that young, you're never going to catch a cat anyway. Okay?
It
Cat
doesn't
doesn't
matter
know
how
that.
old you are.
All right?
They're
The
still
cat
not going
doesn't
to
know
catch
that.
that.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
but
you could be Jesse Owens, you know, the guy who won the 38 Olympics, and you're not going to catch a cat.
all right, well,
In fact, the
we're
only
not
cat
going to
he's
catch.
going to catch would be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The poor little creature was trying to run away from the two little monsters now, who were chasing the cat. Because the cat knew that the two little monsters hated it and were going to do something bad to it if we ever
See,
caught it.
I found a flaw in your story here. You're trying to convince us that you were at one point little.
Oh, I was little. I was very tiny. All right, at
Hmm.
one point. Right?
Well, only
Even,
four
even
pla-
the
only,
even the largest tree starts from small little seeds.
oh, don't
Right?
tell me you were once only 4 Earths in volume.
Right. So we're chasing the little cat around,
Mm-hmm.
and it's noon. It's around noon.
Okay.
How do I know this? I know this because Dad came home from for lunch. Dad is 6'2", about 195 pounds, no fat on him. And as we were chasing the cat, Dad came in the door to say hi to Mom. Hi, honey, I'm home for lunch. And the cat ran up Dad, right, all the way on top of his head, squealing for its life.
Yeah.
As the two little monsters hit the brake,
You know why?
looking up at Dad.
You know why? Because it knows that the cat knows if it injures either one of you two little monsters, it's for the high jump.
All right.
Whereas if Dad beats the cat out of you, it's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
At which point, Dad snatched the cat who was trying to tear off his face off of his face, right? And then proceeded to look at us and go, okay, the belt is on its way. Which we were
Yep.
promptly disciplined, appropriately, I might add, all right,
Yeah.
to never do that ever again.
Right. Well, here's one for you. There was a shop in Newcastle, and they had a guard cat. Right. It's no bigger than my cat.
Yeah.
It's a house. Yeah, it was an American short hair, black and white, like mine.
Yep.
And this is going back to the 80s. They got broken into one night,
Okay.
and the police got an interesting phone call. It was one of the two lads who'd broken in. You're talking about 20-year-old lads here, and they were phoning the police to come and save them from this monster that was stalking the shop. One of them had to go to hospital to have his injuries stitched up. The other one refused to come out of the toilet because of this cat.
Nice. But man, I'm DMing you a kitty. Just wait till you see this kitty. Okay? It's just been sent to you. It is the ultimate kitty. I want
Apparently,
this kitty.
B sent you a video.
Yes, I need this kitty in my life.
Anything that B is saying is already a problem.
Oh, it is. I need this kitty in my life. It is
Well,
so
our video does
cute.
not work.
Oh. Did you
Hold
go?
on.
You have to go to the website. No nuts. Even I knew that one.
Usually, you don't have to. Dickless.
With Pinterest, you do. Numbnuts.
Yeah, very good. Dickless. Yeah, it's a CGI cat. Very nice.
I know, but isn't he cute?
No,
Oh, yes.
no, he's not.
I think he's cute.
Yes, I'm
This is
lying
what
badly.
a,
I know.
Yes.
This is what a clouded leopard looks like for the people who are wondering what this is.
I've also sent it to you,
These
Nomad,
these
to have a
are
look at.
very pretty animals.
Oh yeah.
They're
I
not
still,
very big,
I
but
still
they're very
think
pretty.
the fish I sent to you, Jensen, was better than the Spider-Man and
I don't know.
Deadpool.
I don't know. The fish was awesome. Don't get me wrong. I love the concept with the fish, but Deadpool and Spider-Man, come on, they're awesome. And yes, that is absolutely adorable, as kitty, isn't it? Don't you just want to tickle its chin and make cute noises at it?
Yeah, you do. You just pet it.
No, I want to creep up behind it, whap it in the happy sacks with a baseball bat, then hand the baseball bat to Rishi Sunak and hide.
I like your concept actually, but I'll make a suggestion. Just whap
What?
it in the hacky sacks with Richie Sunak. Because trust me, it's going to turn around and attack the thing that hit it and not worry about the thing wielding the thing hitting it. And while it's eating Richie, you can run away.
Rishi.
That's what I said.
You said Richie.
Shut up.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
No,
All right,
one's
folks,
an
that's all
English
I've got
name,
for
the other one's a
today.
foreign name.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all we got
Goddamn
for today.
foreigners.
I'm going to go ahead and stop end the stream. Hope you all enjoyed it.
Okay.
Bye.
Well, you can fuck off, can't you? Go on.
All right, we're done.